It is time, my friends, as a commercial would imply. It is time. It is time for the finals of the Shadowverse Open Season 2. Both North America and Europe are here today. The top 3 players. We've cut down from hundreds to 12 to 6, and now we're to the final 3, and only one will be champion. We're starting out with Europe, and then North America after the European champion is crowned, so both of them will be done today. But I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. IS Senpai, Exodium, how are you guys doing today? What are we excited for? What are you guys looking forward to?
I'm doing good. I'm looking forward to someone breaking my curse.
There's a very high chance of that happening. Actually, hold on, let me see. Wait, I did. Okay, for EU, it's about like I would say like a 50-50, right? Akamaru and Essia, they both brought force lists. It's possible.
Definitely possible. NA side, there's a single hope, but we'll get to NA later.
A single hope, yeah. We'll talk about those later. But before we get too deep into it, let's take a look at how the tournament has been this whole time. We're finally here at the end. This was the bracket that was the result of last week's mayhem, and so the last 3 players in Europe is going to be Fatina in the grand finals on winner's side. He is the favorite statistically as well as his performance. He kind of has ramped up towards the end of the season and gotten better and better and better, and now he is in the top spot. And then Akamaru and Essia are going to be fighting it out on the loser's final side. The winner of that goes on to face Fatina from the loser's end of the grand finals. That's going to be important because that means, say, for example, if Akamaru Red were to move on, he would need to win 2 series against Fatina to be able to be crowned the first place finisher of the Shadowverse Open for Europe, and similarly for Essia. So, the story here is going to be Akamaru versus Essia. Who is going to win? Who is going to be eliminated and be put into 3rd place? And then, who is going to step up to the plate to try to take Fatina on and take away his first place run here? And that's going to be the big struggle of the day today. I think Fatina is very favored just because of his position, how he's been playing, his deck preparation, and today is a very special day for that because last week they had to submit decks for the entire bracket, but today they were able to submit decks per player. IS Senpai, just looking a cursory glance over Fatina's deck, and we don't need to dive too deep into it until we get to his matches, but how are you feeling about his lineup? I think it's a little more unique than what I feel like Fatina would run normally. How do you feel?
I feel that he's decided to stray away from his combo roots and he's riding a I want to win train.
I want to win train. He's super
It's a great
close.
train to be on.
Yeah.
Great train to be on.
Yeah, that's
Cash money on the line, of course, so he doesn't want to risk any of that on any kind of mistaken draws. He really wants to make sure he's playing the consistent, solid decks that are going to give him the win. $16,000 in prize pool on the line, right? And Fatina is in line to get the majority, the lion's share of that, $6,500. And so that's going to be, we'll see if he can make it. Something else before we get into all the tournament action is to make sure to remind you guys that Season 2 is wrapping up, but that's not the end of the Shadowverse Open. There's more competitive Shadowverse coming at you, both from us as well as from Tokyo, Japan. Cygame's going to have their World Grand Prix, and if you want to know how to participate in that, well, what you have to do is play in Season 3 for North America and Europe. There are going to be 3 spots for each region to go to Tokyo and compete against the best of the best in the World Grand Prix. $120,000 there in prize pool. And so the way you do that, October 1st, you can sign up for Season 3 and make your way into that spot. And from there on, you're going to have to play a qualifier tournament to see if you are in the top 3 to move on to the World Grand Prix. So make sure you keep your eyes out for Season 3 signups. October 1st is when it's going to happen. If you make it in, then you can play in the specific invite qualifier to see if you can go. Very cool, very important. We want to make sure that North America and Europe have the best representatives heading there because there are some incredible players over there in Japan, in Taiwan, in Korea, all over the place. So, let's get back to the action. Our first match here is going to be Akamaru Red versus Essia. And I already let's ask Exodium a little bit about what he thinks here. Akamaru Red and Essia, right? Obviously, they have had quite a season here. You know, Akamaru Red was on top, and I think he kind of had a tough time facing Fatina in the bracket last week. What does he need to look to bounce back, and how is he going to overcome Essia if he wants a shot at taking on Fatina again? How do you think his performance is going to be today, Exodium?
Sure. So I think that he is definitely poised to bounce back today. And he's looking great. Like, his lineup is great. It's a lot more straightforward. His last couple decks, like, he's been playing aggro. He's been, like, going for it. This is, like, meta stuff, like, really consistent stuff. But Essia brought a really good lineup today, too. So, honestly, it's just going to be matchup dependent. Like, which deck are they going to bring against which deck? Because I think they're both slated to do well against each other. It really just depends on the matchups that they actually bring to the table when they actually play. So this will be a really exciting match to watch. I think Akamaru has a slight edge just because we've seen him perform so well in the past. But I'm not gonna cast any doubt on Essia. He's definitely here in the top 3, so he's ready to go.
Now, something I noticed here is that both these players have forest lineups in their list. One is going to be Roach Forest, and the other is going to be Neutral Control. Kind of, well, I don't know if control is really the term I would use, but it's going to be neutral with the late game package, right? I don't know how much Forest can really control the pace of the game. You know, they kind of just really want to make sure they have value on board. But what do we think about these lists? It really seems like a lot of people are bringing a lot of combo today. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Do you guys have any supposition as to why that might be the case?
Well,
Absolutely.
we did see last week. Oh, do you want to take it, or you want me to take it?
Well, I was just gonna briefly say, like, we saw a transition from aggro to control, and almost everybody's playing control. And that's the reason why we're going to see a lot more combo now, because, like, people are adapting. It's a tournament meta game. They understand how the players' minds are going. And now combo's the new fighter against all these control decks, like the Control Bloods, the Nep Shadows, all the slow decks. We're going to see a lot more combo. And specifically, I think we're going to see a lot of D-Shift today. So it'll be interesting.
Well, let's see if they can come in and make the difference for some of these players here. So Akamaru Red versus Estia is just about underway. We're going to hop into that right when it happens. But what do we think is going to be fielded here? Now, something important to note is for the losers finals, it's going to be best of 3. So there's still going to be a ban. So one of these decks are going to be banned out, and we're not going to see all 3 decks. But in the grand finals, it's going to be best of 5. And that means all 3 decks have to make it through. So if there's any kind of weaker lineup, that all of a sudden gets exposed in a much more real way here. For Akamaru and Essia, what do you think these players are most afraid of? What do you think they're trying to avoid here?
I would think that Essia would want to avoid D-Shift. He would want to avoid D-Shift. Like,
yes.
Yeah, mainly because D-Shift is incredibly good against his lineup. He is running a much slower variation of Vengeance Blood, and he's running Nef Shadow, which D-Shift has great matchups against.
And Wallet Forest. Really late game Wallet Forest. Right.
So, yeah, he's definitely disadvantaged against D-Shift, so I think that would be his ban. In Akamaru's favor...
well, no bans, remember, Brian. No bans today. So, it's straightforward best 3 out of 5.
No, there is bans for this one.
Until
for this
the finals.
Match,
Until the finals.
Until the finals.
That's right.
Right.
Perfect.
So there is a ban here.
You're absolutely correct. Oh my goodness. not to interrupt you, but please take a look at Essia's hand right now. You can even see it on his face.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. This is not what you want to see when you're playing a wallet deck.
No, this is not. 3 Bahamut's in hand is not what you want to be seeing. He's gonna have some really good draws to get out of this. That's a start. That's a little bit of a start. It's something he can.
And yeah, I want to say that all of the lists today are, like, very specific. Like, we're not seeing anything normal today. Like, even the Nep Shadows have their own variations. The Vengeance Bloods were going crazy. Ever since I saw Bottle's deck last week, I think Vengeance Blood took this turn. And I don't know where it went, but I kind of like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Vengeance Blood needing a little bit of a different twist to it is just what the doctor ordered, in a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
I like the new direction of that. But this isn't about Vengeance Blood. This is about Shadow versus Bahamut Forest. So
That's right, Bahamut Forest. That's exactly right. And Beauty and the Beast. Okay, so he's got a nice little curve coming up. Those 3 Bahamuts, while not doing anything now, do provide the requisite triple neutral that you need in your hand for Hector and Beauty and the Beast.
It does do that. So while it's going to be a very long time before he plays those Bahamut, it's going to be a very long time. While it's going to be a while.
You really just see Essia laughing like every turn right now. He's just like, my God.
Yeah. My hand, bro. I'd be upset too. But
absolutely.
So
finally a break.
Man,
this is
like okay. So let's say you're Essia, right? Because his hand obviously. What would you need to draw to get yourself out of this? Like what series of cards would you need to get?
Honestly, his hand isn't that bad right now. Alice isn't technically what he's looking for. But honestly, he just needs more cards like Hector. Like, if he just drew a string of Hectors right now, I think he'd be in really good shape. Other than that, it's realistically just can he survive. So Hector is his best option. Outside of that, he's kind of got a lot of loose draws coming up. I mean, he's got the Hector for this turn. He has Beauty and the Beast for next turn. So he doesn't have, like, the worst game plan. And it's not like he's super low right now. Like, Hector can come down and do a lot of work. But other than that, it's really just going to be, can he survive until the Bahamut turns? If he can't, then, you know, he's just going to have 3 dead cards that he's had since his opening draw, which never feels good.
Right. Akamari Red is, you know, he's really thinking right now. It's rare, you know, for him. You know, like, usually he's got this really cool, calm, and composed, really, you know, active kind of behavior. Not today.
Not today. He's bringing the serious face today. That's right.
Yeah, money's on the line. Yeah, you don't play when there's money. You know.
Yeah, you don't play around, rather. You definitely
play. Around. Right. I was like, whoops, my bad.
So Akamara Red has a couple different lines he can play here. He's got the Soul Squasher, decides to go away from that path. Interesting.
Not necessarily that.
Okay. Okay. So he decides to go with just basically a straightforward route, preserving all of his Evos, maybe setting up for a really big Prince Catacomb turn next turn so that he can set up for Ektar on 7. So his game plan's working at full throttle right now.
Not to mention, he is still sitting on 3 Evos. So, I mean, should he later in the game need to start pushing some damage, he's definitely going to have the resources to do it.
Absolutely. He's got it. And with the Prince Catacomb coming up, he's definitely going to have targets for a while. Now, what's really interesting here, how much of those resources are going to have to be used up on this Beauty and the Beast? Is he going to ignore Beauty and the Beast? What do you think, Aya?
I don't know if you can really afford to do that, right? So it also depends on how Essia's next turn plays out in general. If he even plays the Beauty and the Beast, he might decide, you know, I'm going to play the Hector and just use his last Evo to clear board. He might decide that.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Very interesting. This is going to actually get hard punished.
Yeah. Pretty bad.
Yes. Oh, wow. He still goes with the Beauty and the Beast. I would have thought the pre-Evo meant easy Hector here.
Yeah. That would have... Yeah. I'm a little puzzled by that. So now, this Catacomb.
Yeah. It's going to do a lot of work here. Now, unfortunately, there's not really... Okay, he just drew the Demon Eater, so now he does... Well, that's really not going to do much except for draw some cards. Is there really going to be an easy way to take out this Beauty and the Beast? He can Evo the Soul Squasher and use a Serb, use the Coco.
Well, what I was thinking he could have done is
yeah.
he could have played Lyrial War Carrot and then played Catacomb right after. Ran his Soul Squasher in, Evo'd, then traded. Still would have had a board.
Interesting. Okay, so he goes with the Serb Coco line, which is not a bad line. It clears out the Beauty and the Beast. He's still able to push 2 damage.
But see, I think that not going for the Catacomb might come back to haunt him a little bit.
I think so. Now he doesn't really have a good setup for the Ektar turn. He does have some late game push with another Cerberus coming up, but is he ever going to be able to stick things anymore? We've got the Aaron coming next turn, so he kind of found that bridge. He got the Aaron for 8. He's got one turn on turn 9 where Akamaru Red has a huge chance to push, but is it going to be enough?
Food should act like food.
See, this feels really bad.
I'm sorry.
And I'm not even saying this just from the fact that we can see the hands. I'm saying that because usually you want to hold your lurching corpses for, you know, your opponent when they're playing like their Bahamut or their Israfils and stuff like that. And he had to use it, or he felt that he needed to use it right there to preserve his Evo point and to get rid of the Hector. So it's a little, to me, I think it's a little iffy to play it like that. Taking a swig of water. Oh, okay. All right. Well, it now looks like Essia has to think about whether or not he's going to play Crystalia Aaron right now, or if he's going to play out his. He could play Kaiser Carrot into Unica. He has to decide whether or not he's going to. It looks like he's going to go for the Kaiser. This allows him to fill up the board, and now Akamaru Red. Ooh, okay. So he drew into Hector, or into Ektar. I'm about to say Hector. I was messed up. He drew into Ektar. He could go for the board clear, if he really, really wanted to. He could go for the board clear, and I guess that's what he's going to go for. He will also be able to push a substantial amount of face damage as well.
Yep, I like this line of play. Like, this is the perfect amount of shadows. He gets to build back shadows this turn and push a ton of face damage.
Right.
The Evo for not face damage here is interesting. I don't know why clearing the carrot is the option. Yeah.
I don't know why he would do that, but this does present a lethal board.
It does. Absolutely does. And this is the big window right now. Essia has to survive this turn.
Well, actually, Akamaru Red can now play and set up his Prince Catacomb now.
That's right. This would be the turn to do so. He has to. He's got to know Bahamuts are coming. At least one.
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, if Bahamut's to play next turn after this Prince Catacomb, there's not really much Essia can do to prevent this Ektar from being lethal on the following turn, or possibly even the Cerberus with how many tokens are going to be left over.
Yeah. So I'm hoping Akamaru Red isn't thinking about anything other than playing this Prince Catacomb.
Right. Skipped his opportunity earlier, but not a bad step, and now he's not missing it. Perfect.
Yep. So this is the part where Essia is going to be sweating bullets because there's nothing in his hand that can deal with the oncoming lethal.
Yeah, you're literally looking at one less than lethal coming and anything out of Shadow, another Cerb, another Ektar. Like, you got to know something's there. It feels bad.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole game had to feel bad for Essia. Starting with 3 Bahamuts is never where you want to be. Never.
No, it isn't. And I know he's thinking about it. He's mulling it over, but unfortunately, with no Evo points, no wars, no nothing, there's no way he can stop this.
Yep. And that's his only play. He sees the line.
Yeah, he sees that this is a wrap for him. He did the lean back. His head was like, it's over. And it is.
And Akamaru Red coming in strong today.
Oh, you're strong.
Yes. And man, this man did some studying before. Yeah, he was reading some books. He's like, let's go. I'm ready to win some money,
Got his geometry books out, his arithmetics books out. He's not even just doing Shadowverse research. He's like, I need to get my numbers correct today.
Yeah, man.
He's ready to go. He's in a library. He's got access to every book under the sun. Look at him.
Bro.
That's right.
Public library.
I love it, dude. I love his backdrop every single time. I love it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think that shows a lot of character to play your games in a public library. You know, that's good job, Akamaru Red.
Maybe he's trying to build his own crowd. You know what I mean? Like he's going out to these public places and he's like, "Look, I'm the best. Come watch me do what I do."
Hey, you know, he did go undefeated in the round robin, so
My quarry won't escape that
true.
easy.
There might be a peanut gallery that we can't see sitting right beside him. We don't know this.
that's true. That's true, but he's praying right now. He's please let me win. Yes.
So, talk to me about this matchup. So, Akamaru Red over here has Force. This is just a standard Roach OTK list. He's got some Angel Lords thrown in, with ETAs also thrown in with Into the Looking Glass, the combo that we've seen. And this is Nep Shadow from Essia. And realistically, there's not anything too crazy about this Nep deck other than it has a Test of Strength. There is a really big tech card that could come into play here in the Force matchup.
Yes. So the thing about this matchup really comes down to one card, and that card is Death's Breath. Death's Breath is quite possibly the curb stomp against Forest. If Essia gets out a Death's Breath, then it's going to be incredibly hard for Akamaru Red. However, if he does,
that's right,
then he has a very good chance of winning this match.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Death's Breath has been the big Forest killer for the longest time, and Nep has tons of card draw, tons of ways to get to its Death's Breath. A lot of the mid-shadow lists don't play it anymore, but Nep Shadow we know does because it needs that mid-game option to bridge right before Kawi and Nephthys.
Yep.
So very interesting line. If he does survive into the late game, that Test of Strength could give him a few turns that he needs to also finish out the game. So one extra card on top of the Death's Breath to kind of help with this matchup, which I really like.
Well, for those who don't know, the Test of Strength is actually there to work with Mordecai. So Mordecai can't die, or rather, it dies, but then it summons another copy of itself. So because of that, you just have, when the new Mordecai comes into play, Test of Strength will give it ward. So every time that Mordecai dies, you know, more ward. And that is incredibly difficult for Forrest to get around because they're not running any Banish. There's no Odins in his list. There's nothing like that. So
right.
If that combination should come down, it's going to be really difficult for Akamaru Red.
Absolutely. As it stands, though, Essia has kind of what you'd like in the early game. He's got his filter cards. He's got a few pieces of removal. He's got a ton of filter cards now. My goodness. All the soul conversions.
Yeah, he kind of threw his hands up like, oh, that's not what I wanted. Like,
his decks are liking to give him his three of a kinds. You know, he's got the Bahamut, now he's got the soul conversions.
Yo,
and now a double.
Yo,
oh my goodness.
Is not liking what he's getting right now. It's okay, man. Pull yourself together, bro.
That's funny.
he just kind of, what is this? Okay. So
yeah.
Obvious play here, I believe, is EPM.
Yes. EPM set up for the combo. You already have Nature's Guidance. You don't have access to any Roaches yet, but you do have access to the Goblin Mage next turn, possibly, into a Wood of the Brambles to kind of reestablish some board. So all he's really looking for is like another Roach and to dodge something like a Death's Breath, which we know that Essia does not have access to just yet. So I think he's going to have to dig this turn. That's really all he can do, to be honest, but he's going to have to.
Yeah, because his hand is obviously amazing. I mean, he's got all the card draw he could want. And by that, I mean...
This plays very interesting. So this... Yes, he will be able to play one of them. And this kind of sets him down on his shadows, though. Using the Soul Squasher for shadows means even if he drew into a Death's Breath, he wouldn't be able to play it immediately. And it's going to take some time for him to build those shadows back up. So an interesting choice there.
Yeah, I think if I were him, I may have been more willing to sacrifice the Evo point just to make sure that I had those for Death's Breath. But I don't know, maybe he's not looking at Death's Breath right now. He's like, you know, I got a Kawi in hand, so I have to bridge me from turn 7 and on. So, yeah. Now, we do see in Essie's hand a card that we haven't seen in a really long time. Play for Necromancer.
That's right.
Play for Necromancer.
And Playful
haven't seen that
Necromancer is
card in a
interesting
while.
because we talk a ton about Lyriel and the benefits of Lyriel and how it's even good by itself on turn 4. Playful Necromancer is kind of like double Lyriel. It doesn't allow you to play anything else on that turn, but it gets you 2 pings, so you can kind of set up a nice board for Playful Necromancer. And it's really not that bad against Forest because it also does double duty against little fairies when they're in play, so it can kind of clear the board. So maybe a very interesting tech for what he thought he was going to face.
Well, I mean, if he was expecting to face Forest, he certainly got it because that's what he's playing against right
Yes.
now.
Absolutely.
Well, at the very least, he will, if he decides that he wants to use the Playful Necromancer, he could use that right now to clear his board.
That's right. Very easily, even push some damage if he so chooses.
Watch me,
Yeah. There it is.
Yep, and he can use the leftover, the leftover followers to use his soul conversions on. So this is actually kind of perfect.
Yeah. It's exactly, I think, what he wanted. Maybe not. Maybe not. He just, you saw it, man.
You can
Hand on-
see
oh,
every
no.
draw. Every draw on his face right now is just, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh
It's
my
not,
goodness.
It's
He's
just not
very
hitting.
animated here. I feel for him.
Yeah, I do too. I feel so bad for him right now. But it's not. He's
This is
not in
not
a
the match you
terrible
like.
position. I mean,
No, definitely
but
not
the
a
later the
position.
game goes, the worse it's gonna get if he doesn't get those cards he needs. That Death's Breath, that Test of Strength. The later it goes without those cards, Akamaru Red's just gonna have
right.
the opportunity to kill him.
Now here's an
So-
interesting choice. I think ETA is probably the best choice here because it clears out both followers pretty easily. Yep. Along with a little bit of help here. Actually, the Playful Necromancer gets countered by Wood of Brambles. That's a very interesting type of interaction. I haven't seen this
So sparkly.
at all, ever, actually. I haven't seen Wood of the Brambles versus a tech card like Playful Necromancer, so it's kind of like anti-tech, but it's already built into the deck, so that's a very interesting choice.
Well, I don't know if he was thinking about that when he made it, but it certainly ended up kind of working out that way.
Right, I just mean deck composition-wise, I think it's very interesting to see that there are these natural, like, counters to even very specific tech cards that people are bringing.
Yeah.
Wood of the Brambles, for those of you who don't know, that little flag you see that popped under the fairies is whenever those fairies get into combat, or any follower that you have in play get into combat, you actually clash and deal a damage immediately, so those Playful Necromancer tokens aren't really going to get a lot of value if they want to try to trade at all. As a matter of fact, no value.
Right. Well, Essie is heavily considering his options, whether or not he wants to play Kawi here. He opts not to. I actually kind of like this. He didn't have to play it, so
Right.
he didn't have to. He's not in any danger of being coach lethal right now, and I think he knows that. So it makes a lot of sense for him not to play the Kawi here. But
I like it
he's
because
still gonna need.
you know,
Cute to boot.
This is
I was gonna say, like, this might have been kind of a misstep. Like, we know because of the hands it's not, but you know your opponent had 2 fairies, had an Evo point, you know, at 0 cost, the 0 cost fairy. So technically, there could have been a lethal chain there. So it was kind of scary not to play the Kawi. But if you really think that they haven't naturally drawn the second roach, you can kind of take the gamble here. And that's kind of what he did. And then he's kind of set up for a couple turns here. He's got the Kawi. He's got a Nepthys to regain that 1 point of health, which is huge. Being at 20 against Roach is huge. It makes them take longer in their basically their combo setup. It might take them until turn 9. So he's not looking too bad right now.
Well, I think that this would probably be the time to play Kawi.
Yes.
Just to kind of preemptively set that up. You know, in the next turn, we already know that Akamaru Red does have a Dance of Death for it. But again, that's a turn that he's not comboing with. He's not comboing, and it does give him an additional turn to get into that Death Breath that he desperately needs.
He desperately needs it. He might even go for a lot of filter here just to get the Death Breath, honestly. Like, Kawi's nice, but it's the only ward he has access to.
Well, he could just play the Soul Conversion in his hand on the Soul Squasher, but he opts not to.
So very,
Oh, wow.
very good to play Kawi here. Definitely not a bad choice. If he didn't play Kawi
wow.
there, actually, with the top deck Angelic Snipe, that probably was lethal. So maybe he had to play the Kawi there. But this is the pivotal turn. If Essia doesn't draw something here, he's just going to die next turn.
Yeah.
Full combo assembled for
Like-
Aka here.
As long as Akamaru Red doesn't get any ideas about playing any of his followers, which he wouldn't. Like, he wouldn't play anything right here. As long as he doesn't get any ideas, he's good, you know? I stand correct.
Yep. Well, this makes sense. He has an
guess-
extra nature's guidance. Yep. And that's it.
Oh, man. Wait, not yet. He could still Soul Conversion. He does have
right.
Soul Conversion.
You're
in
right.
hand.
He has to do it.
It's not
This
game
is a must
yet,
soul
but he
conversion
needs to
into
do
a
it
get
now.
there.
Yeah, he has to do it now. There's literally nothing else he can do. You have to Soul Conversion.
Nope.
And hope you get your Death Breath.
Nephthys won't set up for anything that will prevent lethal here. There's no life gain for Kawi to get.
Oh, no! And we will never know what he just burned. He knows it.
He needed to play a
knows it.
2-drop first. He needed to play a 2-drop first to get the Death's Breath. I think he was going for
Yeah.
the Kawi option as well, but overdrawing.
Gimme!
Yeah, he knows it. He knows it's a wrap.
Let's play!
Yep.
And Akamaru Red
Game!
pulling through. Yeah, you can just see it on Essia's face. He's just, alright, man. You got me, bro.
Yep. Akamaru Red forcefully making his way back to the finals. I love it.
Yep. Yeah.
Especially in
Let people
style
know.
with these roaches. That curse is dying, Aya. It's dying. Roach is winning this tournament. I'm telling you.
There it is, and it looks like Akamaru Red with Forestcraft will be able to eliminate Essia, putting him in 3rd place. And that was a really heartbreaking game from Essia's point of view, I feel like. In both games, just a very uncomfortable position to be put in. And I think for the most part, his draws started out really poorly, but I think it actually evened out towards the mid part of the game. He just didn't really get the key elements of what he needed. I think his timing on playing the Kawi was really good. I think that, you know, he had the search. He was drawn for options and just couldn't quite get Death's Breath. And I almost wonder if Akamaru Red feels like his lineup is just preying on this kind of, it does seem like, because Akamaru Red doesn't seem like such a combo player to me, at least over the course of the round robin, but I think he just identified something today, and he realized that, hey, there's an option that I can pursue that will help me gain the victory. So 2-0, Akamaru Red going to go for a rematch against Fatina in the grand finals. But before we get to that, we're going to take a little moment, just you and me, have a little intimate moment here, because we're going to try to solve some of the audio issues we've been having. There's been kind of some issues with our audio solution that have been gumming up the stream, so we're going to make sure to get that fixed and help deliver Shadowverse action in high quality HD surround sound Dolby Digital audio. Something like that. I have no idea. But while I have you guys here, let's talk a little bit about some of the things coming down the road for Shadowverse. So the next big thing that's going to be happening is TwitchCon. Shadowverse is going to be at TwitchCon, so if you are making it down to Long Beach, California, make sure you come check us out at the event. We're going to be there doing booth stuff, we're going to have a stage segment on the Twitch stream, and we're going to have a 2-hour show match, so lots of people are going to be hanging out there, a lot of the Shadowverse community is going to be out there, and some big influencers that are attending TwitchCon are going to be stopping by the booth, doing the stage show, doing the show matches, and so you can come out and meet some of the great influencers that do Shadowverse content and kind of talk to them about the game and maybe even play with them. So if you are making your way down to TwitchCon, make sure to check out Shadowverse. Would love to see you guys there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait. Also, as a reminder, Season 3 is beginning soon. October 1st is the first day you can register for Season 3, and make sure you do that because you want a chance to go to the World Grand Prix at the end of the year in December, going to Japan to compete. How you do that is play in the Season 3 qualifiers, and if you get into the round-robin stages, if you pass the qualifiers and are a Season 3 competitor for North America or Europe, then before the season starts, there will be a specific invite tournament to see who the top 3 of the region will be, and that will decide who the 3 players from North America and the 3 players from Europe will be to be flown out to Tokyo. So, a lot of exciting stuff coming down the way for Shadowverse, and we are about ready to continue to stream, but I can't wait for the World Grand Prix, and I know I'm going to be watching very closely and very intently, and I hope you guys will be as well. The Rage Tournament stream was a blast. Loved having everybody here and talking about Shadowverse and watching that big event, and I think the World Grand Prix is going to be that a million times cooler and better with a lot of international players even representing at that event, so I can't wait. But I believe we're back. I believe we've gotten Exodium and Aya back, so hopefully we have better disguised the fact that they're actually robots.
Beep boop, beep boop.
No,
you can't disguise it.
Still not working. Exodium's definitely not a robot. He's a human, by the way. Man, that last match, Akamaru Red versus Essia. How did you guys feel about how that played out? Did you have kind of a prediction for who you wanted to move on? Or rather, did you have in your mind somebody who was going to move on based on the deck submission? And did you have in your heart somebody that you wanted to move on? Exodium, was there any particular player in that sense for you?
Sure. So I actually was right on Akamaru's track. I thought he was well poised. I think that he was probably the favorite, but I really think that Essia didn't really have much to do in that match. Like, we saw the first draw with the triple Bahamut. We saw the second draw with the triple filter into just a whole bunch of nothing, into Playful Necromancer that didn't do that much, and then just no cards at the end. So I don't think it was his fault. And I feel like the match was kind of unfortunate.
That's kind of the nature of card games in some ways. And really the great tragedy was the other card he drew in spades was packed with a Nether God. Those kinds of removal spells really don't do anything against Roach because there's nothing to remove until you're dead. Aya, how did you feel about that match? A player that you wanted to move on, or the player that you thought was going to move on?
Man, I gotta root for the public library.
The public library. Akamaru is a cultured individual.
Beautiful.
But in all seriousness, I agree with Exo. I think that Akamaru was very well poised for that, but Essia's hands were just terrible.
Oh.
Oh god.
I mean, I felt so bad for him. It's not the way you want to go out in the finals.
Yeah.
If you go out at all.
Yeah. So in the losers finals, Essia taking 3rd place, but did really well. And now that we're all here again, of course, as we've done for all the other players, I'm going to give Essia a round of applause. I dropped my pen. A round of applause for Essia. Thank you so much for competing. Did super well. I really think that there was a lot of struggle, at least for kind of the positioning that Essia was in the round robin. There was a lot of contention for that spot, and making it this far is no small feat. Of course, we will be seeing him back in Season 3 against new competitors coming up from the qualifiers, as well as these ones that he's facing now. So that's not the last we'll see of Essia, but for Season 2, 3rd place is finished. That's a really good placing. I mean, Akamaru Red and Fatina, this next match is Grand Finals. They are the real business, right? These guys are the top of the top. The final 2 that Europe has surfaced are these 2 players. Fatina being very historied, right? He's been around for a very long time. Very notorious for combo, but during the course of this tournament, he's had to evolve. He's had to change. His deck submissions have become more refined and more intentional. And I really think that early start for him kind of framed him perfectly for the rest of the tournament. What do you guys think about this match coming up? Favorite players, who you think is going to win based on just deck submissions. So let's ignore kind of the extended series and the bracket reset. Just if this was a one match, right? Who do you think is favored to take it? Is it Akamaru's deck lineup? Is it Fatina's deck lineup? Is their decision making going to change that?
I think that
Has got a stinking cap
Akamaru
on.
Red is positioned to win this.
Akamaru Red. Ooh, you going for Akamaru Red. And of course, again, we're ignoring the extended series here. We're just talking about if it was just one match, who has the advantage in that match. So Akamaru Red is your choice. Is there any particular compelling reason why?
Yeah. His lineup is really good versus Vegeta's.
Yes.
It's incredibly good versus Vegeta's.
Yep.
So I'll actually go out and defend Fatina. So I think that his lineup is actually really good.
Uh-oh.
And yes, and Akamaru Red is bringing the same decks, except he's switching over to Sword. So Sword is in his lineup now, and I don't know if Sword is well poised against any of Fatina's decks. So we'll have to see how the matchups play out. It's really gonna, like, without ban, these matchups are gonna be super important.
Right. So let's talk through the list that Akamaru is bringing. Maybe Exodium. Let's go line by line and talk about how you think these decks are functioning for Akamaru Red. What are the key things you think are attributed to Akamaru that will give him an edge in this, or what do you think is going to hurt him in this matchup?
Sure. So Forest and D-Shift are great. They're combo decks. They can break through what Fatina has if he plays them properly, which I'm sure he will. And then, oh, actually, I'm sorry. I got the decks wrong. Akamaru Red, it's got Blood, not Sword this time.
I was
So
waiting for you to recognize
Yeah, he's got neutral blood. He's got neutral blood. So same kind of scenario. It's a very straightforward Astro deck, and I think Fatina is very good against these types of deck. So maybe not neutral Sword, but it is neutral blood, and it's very similar. And I think that would be the only deck that kind of brings him down. He's got 2 combo decks and 1 aggro deck to prey on. We saw Rage last week. Is the aggro decks were actually the Achilles heel of all these great players. So
Definitely.
that's the only difference maker I see.
Interesting to note that, obviously, Aggro went very, very far in the tournament, getting as far as 2nd place, but just fell just short of Control, Ramp, of kind of some of the slightly slower paced decks, but I think Akamaru is packing much more combo than what some of the other players were packing in Rage, and I think that's really going to be the throughput that you need to break through Control Blood, because it seems like it's so good at healing up and surviving. Aya Senpai, talk to me about Fatina and his deck lineup. What's going to hurt him? What's going to help him? What are his tools in this matchup, and what are his weaknesses?
Well, he's playing Control Blood with Maelstrom Serpent. I mean,
we've seen it too, and we've seen it fall flat on its face.
Yeah, and I'm very afraid that that's going to happen again here. He's also running Ramp Dragon. Pretty standard list with his Ramp Dragon list. He is running Goblin Breaker Tina to help with the neutral matchup, but he's not going to be fighting that here. So I don't know how effective that's going to be. And he is playing Nev Shadow.
Yep.
So him playing Nev Shadow against a D-Shift lineup,
we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I think what's super smart about what Akamaru Red has done is brought a bunch of super aggressive. I mean, Phantom Cat Blood is going to be the further from the deck lineups, but mostly combo lineups against what he has identified as slow-paced decks, and I think he made a very good read, so that's going to give him a slight advantage. But remember, Akamaru Red has to win 2 series because he's coming from the loser side, and we're kicking it off with D-Shift versus Ramp. What are the mulligans looking like here? Who has the advantage?
Yep. So as we know in this matchup, D-Shift has an edge against Dragon. Dragon doesn't win very fast, and it has to get set up and keep itself at 20 and just hope it can out-aggress D-Shift before it goes, or just hope D-Shift kind of bricks and never draws D-Shift, or at least not in a relevant time frame. And from what we can see in the mulligans, there's no D-Shift yet, but he hasn't mulled any of his cards. So we'll have to see.
Right.
Aya, what do you think about this matchup? Is there anything different besides just D-Shift has an incredible edge here?
well, there is a little bit of a difference. Fatina's running more of a Storm Ramp list, which actually can do pretty good against D-Shift. So,
Oh, actually, that was post-mulligan. So there
Yeah,
are
that
no
was
D-Shifts in
post-mulligan.
sight. Merlin can pull, but as we saw, we see this crazy Bahamut draw again with Queen of the Dreadsea. So again, we just see a deck bricking. against Akamaru Red. Did he do some voodoo magic along with his research? Did he read one of these books?
I think he has some powers that's forcing his opponents to brick.
Right.
Because this is not good.
Yeah, what's happening?
But if you look at Akamaru's hand, it's pretty good versus Bettina.
Yep, it's great now. He got the D-shift early. He's got the gold salts to filter a lot of spells early. Got the Merlin to dig. I mean, he got a lot of what he...
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we see that Akamaru Red has access to a lot of filter with his insight and magic missile. So evolving to Merlin, gonna obviously allow him to spell boost every card in his hand, and the only card that doesn't really spell boost is gonna be the Guardians and the. Oh, that's it. Then he already played the insight.
Yeah, magic missile and conjure golem, but that's okay.
Oh right, yeah.
But yeah, easy stuff. And Dragon on Fatina's side here is just not going to be doing a lot. Like, he's going to try to aggress with what he has. But is it going to be enough?
Well, it's not really looking like it.
Now, this was a very interesting choice. Sahaquil just to get another follower, I think is the right choice. You have to try to win immediately. And Lucifer with an Evo next turn is an additional 4 damage.
It is.
So, unless Fate's Hand draws something that can clear not just one of these 4/4s, but both of these 4/4, Akamaru might be in a tough spot.
Well, let's see what he can do. He does still have an Evo point remaining, and he does have Fiery Embrace.
Right.
So he'll at least be able to take out 2 things. Yeah.
Yep. It won't let him filter anymore. But he already kind of has his endgame in his hand. He's got 2 Guardians. He's got a Flame Destroyer. He's got a D-Shift. And he has to clear this. He has to.
Well, he has to clear the 2 4/4s.
Right.
The 1/2 is okay.
It doesn't necessarily set up a lethal next turn if he doesn't do this. But it puts him in a spot to where he has to win faster than I think he otherwise would have wanted.
Right. And given the way... Oh, well, never mind. He does have another D-shift now. And he did manage to clear board.
Recognizes that Fatina had a line and basically just threw that line on the ground. He's like, no more act.
Hear the dragons roar.
Okay, so replaying the Dragon Summoner that he already played, but that's because it was balanced. And there's that Chimera that we've been seeing a lot of recently. Lots of Chimera.
Yes, Chimera is a new staple in D-Shift. We see about 2 of them in every single D-Shift. We've seen it. We've seen some list 3, and like kind of like skimping on the number of Flame Destroyers. But now it's this comfortable like 3 Flame Destroyer, 2 Chimera, or like 2 Flame Destroyer, 2 Chimera.
Well, as a person yourself who plays D-Shift, how do you feel about Chimera's new inclusion into it?
I think it might be necessary just to deal with the mid-game board that a lot of these neutral decks are putting together, and just a lot of the aggressive decks in general. Like, they're just too strong now. And the defensive options that Rune has just aren't as strong as they used to be. Like, Levi used to always do 4. Now it doesn't. So now you kind of sometimes extra little push to maybe even do that 1 extra damage and have a follower that you can evolve to a 6/6 instead of just 4/4. So it gives it a new dimension. No pun intended.
I'm kind of thinking that was intentional, but you know.
So what are we thinking here, Aya? You know, what do you think Dragon's game plan is to win this?
Okay, what Fatina needs to do is, I'm thinking that he just kind of has to go all in. You know, he's in a position where his opponent could have a combo to kill him. And while he is at 20, that's not really going to be enough. You know,
Right.
so
Especially
I'm
now
thinking
with
that
what we're
he's-
seeing that Akamaru draw.
Yeah. And we see the Fiery Embrace, so he'll be able to get rid of this Bahamut.
Hmm.
So Fatina needs to go in as much as he possibly can.
And I'm thinking he has a really good option to do so. Like, I like the Bahamut there because he needed a clear board. Next turn, he has access to Ouroboros, which will deal 3 damage to face and kind of just set up this, you're always in lethal range if you can't kill my Ouroboros.
Mm-hmm.
He could also just Bahamut, knowing that all the Fiery Embraces are gone.
He could do that, and that would put a lot of pressure on Akamaru Red to end the game.
Or is this end the game right now?
Oh no, this is game. He's just, yeah,
Here comes
it's game now.
magic.
Is the other
Okay.
D shift ready?
Yeah, that's a wrap.
Yeah, it's on 5. That's it. That's game.
Yeah.
Akamaru Red doing it strong. So, winning the matchup that we thought he would win. So, and this is a very matchup dependent match, period. Like, all of their decks can square up well against the opponent's lineup if the improper deck is played.
There's no one else I'd rather lose to.
There it is.
He's like,
Akamaru Red will be able to take the first game here, and remember, we're in a best of 5, so it's first to 3 wins there, and Akamaru Red is able to take 1. And that really goes to show the strength of D-Shift, right? As long as you have enough boost on your second D-Shift to, on the full set of play points, play it again, you can swing for lethal. And the fact that he had his Flame Destroyer already to 0, was also able to boost his Chimera to 0, and use that Conjure Guardian to kind of boost as well, gave him that ending push. Very, very scary moment. I felt like there might have been an opportunity where if there was a few more Storm cards in the hand, I mean, there was a turn where it was 10 play points and Dreadsea was available. There's a world where you could just get stormed down, I feel like. So I think that was a very scary moment. Maybe something like Genesis Dragon Lucifer or something like that. I think that would have
Absolutely.
ended up
Or even a Zeus, because without the Fiery Embraces for backup, you might not be able to get through it.
Yeah. So definitely very scary, but Akamaru Red will take the first win with Rune D-Shift, and this is kind of his plan, right? He's really looking for these combo decks to surpass the options that Fatina is bringing and take a win. So we're going to be jumping into the second game very shortly, and remember, there are no bans, so all 3 decks have to be played out. This means Akamaru still has 2 left, Roche Forest and Phantom Cat neutral. Let's talk a little bit about Phantom Cat. It's not a deck that we've seen a lot. It was very popular when the expansion first came out, but Exodium, talk to us about Phantom Cat neutral and kind of really quickly, unless he's playing it here maybe, what it does.
Yeah,
Looks like he is.
absolutely. Yeah. So the big strength of it is that it's a regular aggro deck, like you would see. It's just generic. It's, tries to go up the play points on curve and just try to kill your opponent on curve. The benefit that it has is Goblin Mage, Baphomet, Phantom Cat, all of these cards that redraw when you play. So they don't do as much damage as, say, a sword deck. But it has a lot more value inherently because you're just going to see a lot more cards, you're going to keep a full hand, and it's going to feel good.
Yep. Now before, Phantom Cat was played a lot due to the fact that Baphomet could be kind of set up to just get it.
Right.
And now that's not the case anymore because of Baphomet being changed.
Absolutely. And as we can see, he's definitely not off to a hot start. So maybe he did the voodoo ritual wrong this time and decided to kind of brick his own hand.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Brick yourself.
Yes, that's right. You can't get the incantations right every single time. He's not a pro yet. He just learned like this week.
I mean, he could have just got himself a tape recorder, said the first time he got it right, and just play it back this next time.
Yeah, that's right.
Precautions, man.
Precautions against hurting your own self with your voodoo magic.
Yep. Okay. All right. So, Akamaru does have some plays, but I think Alice is really the only one worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
It does
It'll pump
buff
the Hector for next turn, and the Grimnir, and the Gilgamesh, which is, we've talked about this a lot. Pumping Gilgamesh is kind of why it's really good in these decks. Alice just kind of makes it a better Genesis Dragon in some cases.
Well,
Let's play again.
not only does it make it a better Genesis Dragon, but it also helps you give a really strong win condition against Nef Shadow, because you do need to be able to burst damage through.
Absolutely. Especially if
you
they
have
reset
to
with
be
a
able to do
coffee
that.
or something.
Exactly. You have to be able to do
My
that.
boss works up to the bone.
Absolutely. So we're seeing Nep Shadow do what Nep Shadow does to try to keep the board clean.
My wings are killing me.
And he has the good setup here. He's got Kawi into double Mordecai, so his end game is set. And I don't know if Akamaru Red has done enough damage to face yet to actually make Fatina worry about the rest of this game.
No, I think he would have needed to get him at least somewhere down into 14 to 12 range for the. Well, certainly closer now. But
Well, that helps. Phantom Cat, when it does 4 damage to your opponent, feels really good. Draw 2 cards,
Yeah.
deal 4 to your opponent, and create a 5/5 in play. Very good.
Well, he's unavoidably at this point gonna give Fatina some help. So
Yep.
Is-
4
yeah,
damage
rather-
just got reset, just like we were talking about.
Inferno,
Yep.
Tina.
that feels awful, man. You do all that damage, and then your
Kawi is
opponent's
rage-inducing sometimes. Absolutely.
I bloom on stage.
Absolutely.
Weakness the power.
I do like this though.
Like a bird.
Yeah,
I
going
say.
wide here is an excellent option.
Yeah, because if he plays that Mord, which I kind of don't really know if... I don't know, he could have played Foul Tempest, but he wouldn't have been able to clear both.
I like the
So-
Mordecai here. Establish the Mordecai when you're not in lethal range so that it can kind of control the board if you need to. So now it's just this ultimate removal and endgame option that your opponent has to deal with. And this is the one turn that Akamaru Red has to really push. And this is a really big turn to push. He has the Gilgamesh. And this
Yeah.
might be the turn he wants to break it out.
This is one of those times where you're going to be worried about whether or not your opponent has the Kawi in hand. But I don't know if you can really worry about that if you're Akamaru Red. If you're him, you're like, I need to kill him. Now.
And funny enough, as much as we've been talking about how little damage Akamaru Red has done, he's got the double Razor Claw in hand now, and there's no Kawi to be found for Fatina. There's no life gain at all.
Yeah. So we're going to see Akamaru Red,
It's over.
master of bricking the opponent.
Had a bricky hand to start, but we talked about this before the game started. Drawing this many cards over the course of a game, even if you haven't done that much damage, just lets you push into this end game where you just have so many options available to you. All these Razor Claws to face after the Gilgamesh being pumped. How amazing.
Yeah. The public library is doing wonders for him, man.
Doing
Like,
wonders.
Wonders. Like, Akamaru Red, man, you gotta tell me, you gotta tell me where your public library is. If I can go to
Right.
any regular
I need to read
public
those
library.
books.
Yeah. I mean, he is a math teacher. Fun fact. So,
That I didn't know.
yeah, he's a math teacher. Not
Interesting.
even kidding. He is legitimately a math teacher. So, this
That is
man,
awesome. So, yeah,
yeah,
who
it is
knows?
awesome.
All right, so is Akamaru Red's going to sweep the first half of this winner's final?
I don't know, man. He's crushing it right now.
He is crushing. He's on a tear. This is reminiscent of Akamaru Red in the first few weeks, and I say
Yeah.
few, but most weeks, where he dominated the entire time. Maybe he just brought it today, and he's like, you know what? I got put down into the losers bracket, but don't count me out.
I think he was like, you know what? I let somebody beat me last week. That's not happening again.
He did self-proclaim that he would never lose, and he did, and he probably felt really bad.
Wait, what happened? Oh, wait. Maybe he queued. I think Fatina may have queued the wrong deck.
I think so.
Okay, I don't see why he would just immediately concede there. So I'm going to
There's
say
probably
that he
some
just-
matchup there. Hopefully this doesn't
Oh,
affect
right.
the match.
It's the way the room is set up. You can't set up. Can you set up a third deck? You should be able to set up a third deck, right?
You should. So we're gonna figure out what happened. You should be able to
Okay.
submit 3 decks. So we're gonna check it with our admin to see exactly what happened there, and kind of figure out what the update is. But let's talk about the last game for a little while. Of course, Akamaru Red, is drawing into some really great options, and he's having a good matchup against his opponents in terms of, what his opponent's options are available to them. But I really like the way that he's playing right now. I think Exodium talked a little bit about it. Akamaru Red was the leading kind of win-loss player in the round-robin stage. Just very, very strong. And coming into the bracket last week, Akamaru Red was kind of demonstrating why he was such a strong player and only kind of fell to Fatina in the last portion of it. And it seems like he's not skipped a beat since then. He's really making great decisions, playing very aggressively. And this is not the kinds of lists that Akamaru plays normally, right? ISFI, maybe you're a little bit more familiar, but this is a slightly different lineup than what he brings to tournaments. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. Usually Akamaru Red's bringing, just really strong, consistent decks and this and that. But today he's bringing a combo lineup. He said, hey, obviously Neutral Blood is not a combo deck, but he brought D-Shift, he brought Roach, these are not things we usually see with him. So I think it's great. He came ready.
Yeah.
He is doing an excellent job today.
Yeah.
Really demonstrating his prowess and mastery over not just aggro, not just mid-range, but, he's got the combo as well, which I would say is even harder than Control to play at most times. So he definitely has his game on point right now.
And variety and adaptability is something that is rewarded in this kind of format. So the update is Fatina actually was not confident in the last deck matchup that he would have to play, and he forfeited the match, and he's going straight to the bracket reset.
Oh,
so
wow.
Akamaru Red has just beat him down. And I wouldn't even doubt him, right? Because we talked about how Phantom Cat Neutral was the only deck that was an outlier. You're facing hard combo, right? Roach, D-Shift. And Phantom Cat has a few combo-oriented things, as we saw in the last game. You have the Gilgamesh Storm plus all the followers on board, and then double Razor Claw to end it is pretty tough to stop, pretty tough to kind of mitigate. And so I think after Fatina lost to that deck, he just said, you know what, let's reset, let's try that again, and see if he can do it twice in a row. So this is it. Fatina has chosen to use his extra life. It's out the window. I would have preferred, I think you should play it out, but...
For this,
you should play this out for this money.
Like to be fair, combo Roach versus Control Blood is naturally been just immensely favored. If we know that D-Shift is favored against Dragon, Roach is just that much more favored against Control Blood. But we're talking about $6,500 here. I don't know if I would have just sacked the match.
I want to just point out that didn't you say that Fatina's lineup was good here? Because
well, I didn't think Neutral Blood was going to do what it did the game that it did. It kind of pulled that win out of a hat. You know what I mean? It was like Phantom Cat for full damage, Razory Claws for 6 damage from hand after board control was taken away. So he had the right pieces at the right exact moment to get there. The Gilgamesh being pumped by Alice. You know what? I'll concede the fact. Okay, you know what? Maybe Fatina's decks aren't as well suited as I thought if this Neutral Blood is as good as it is.
Yes. Thank you very much.
I
have 1 point for you.
Will gladly take that point. I will gladly take that point. But it is very interesting. There is a consideration for kind of saving your mental fatigue, right, and your decision making. And Control Blood is very tiring to play, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe Fatina's just like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother having that emotional stress. I'm just gonna start on a clean slate and kind of roll my options again and play out how I've seen with the new knowledge of how Akamaru's decks are going to play out and how he's making his decisions. So we'll see. We're rolling D-Shift again, this time against Nep Shadow. And we'll see if Akamaru can make a three-peat. He essentially 3-0'd Fatina in the first series, but now this is it. Everything is on the line. The loser is in second place, and the winner becomes a champion of Wonderland Dreams for Season 2 of the Shadowverse Open. Is it going to be Akamaru Red, or is Fatina going to be able to pick himself up, guys? What do you think?
Well, we're starting off.
Hand, though.
He's done something today. I know we keep talking about it, but he's done something today. I don't know if it's just he's got the stuff. I don't know what's going on, but this is not technically a bad matchup for him either. So D-Shift against Nep Shadow. You never really want to be on the side of Nep Shadow here, but
my goodness. Stop it. Stop.
I don't know if I can even say much more about it. Like, this is just crazy.
I think Fatina just gave up.
I think Fatina's going on a hard tilt roll right now, guys.
Oh man, This feels.
I think
awful,
we're
dude.
seeing a fall from grace right now.
Yeah.
Now,
This
I'm
is-
gonna say that Fatina, maybe the lineup was just more skewed than I thought. Either that, or maybe he just decided that he wasn't gonna bring D shift. Akamar Red wasn't gonna bring D shift first again. I'm not sure, but my goodness. All right, Aya, talk to
Akamaru
me.
Red. Okay.
Talk to me. Fatina, right now, if you're Fatina, what are you thinking about? Why did you just make that decision? What's on your mind? If tilt's not an option, let's get away from the tilt option.
Okay.
What is Fatina thinking right now in a realistic competitive environment? Why am I doing this?
All right. If I'm Fatina and I decide to concede that game, the reason that I'm doing it is because I'm basically taking away the D shift option for the matchup that I know I can play. So his decision now is whether or not he's going to be able to snipe out the Roach deck and not pick his Control Blood. So is he going to be able, because if he picks Control Blood and it's Roach again, he's in a lot of trouble.
Right.
I think
Right. Very.
it's really interesting, and we've seen. I mean, we've had the fantastic opportunity to have the cameras on the players for a large portion of the round robin, and Fatina by far is one of the most emotional players that we've seen in the round robin. You know, and he really gets down on himself every single loss he takes. He is devastated by that. And the fact that Akamaru was able to sweep them 2-0 in the first series, I think that is a really big hit to kind of your mentality, especially if you go into the matchup already thinking that your decks got red, you know?
Right.
And one of the things to talk about, and I think this is one of Akamaru Red's strengths, throughout the course of the round robin, he always brought some of the most solid, consistent lineups. And I think that added on to the fact that Akamaru is very adaptable and can play a lot of different styles. Plus, he threw a wrench in the system in this particular matchup. Akamaru Red says, "Hey, you know all the meta decks that I was running and the consistent lineups that I was running. Today I'm going to be playing combo. Sorry, you can't make a read on me, you know." And
Definitely
I think he really
outside the
threw a
box.
curveball.
Yeah, he did. And I think so. One thing that I really felt like Fatina had at his strength was in the 2-deck 1-ban format. I think his deck building and his counterplay to his opponents was right on point. I think just like Rainey just said, that Fatina got thrown a curveball today by what Akamaru brought, and B, without a ban in the format, he couldn't ban something like a D shift, and it kind of just gave Akamaru Red a free win in the match.
Yeah. Well, we're seeing right now that Fatina did manage to get paired against Neutral Blood, but we saw this matchup before. You know, this the same exact matchup we saw before. And
we see Akamaru Red actually have a curve this time.
Yeah, he has a curve, and it's a pretty good one.
It's a pretty good one. It's a 1-2-3-4 Alice. We haven't seen one of those in quite a while.
Yeah, so we're going to be seeing it today, because that's about to happen. And
did we take notes on what Akamaru Red eats and drinks in the morning? Because I need to get up on that.
You know what, man? I think that Akamaru Red has some of the best Wheaties that anyone could ever have. Okay?
Yes, he does.
This man has amazing. He read this tournament, or read his opponents incredibly well today.
Absolutely.
Like, he came ready, prepared, and he's gotten 2 concessions out of Fatina. 2!
Yep.
Like,
one.
What?
2.
2.
So very amazing follow-up play by Fatina here, able to clear the entire board. So now the difference between this hand versus the last hand is the last hand had a lot of unaccountable damage, right? It had the Phantom Cat for 4, it had the Gilgamesh for a bunch. Now we see the Phantom Cat again. Okay, I was going to say he didn't have that now, but of course he's Akamaru Red, so he's going to draw it right before he needs it.
That sums it up right there. He's
So I was going to
Red.
go into a different talk, but never mind, Phantom Cat showed up in time, so... Alright, right on course.
You said it perfectly. He is Akamaru Red, so he's gonna have those cards just because he's Akamaru Red.
That's right. Now, there is no Gilgamesh to back this up. There's no double Raise Reclaw like we saw last time. Like, Akamaru Red had an embarrassment of riches last game. He actually overdrew on one of his turns. This game, not so much.
Of course.
Okay. Drew some other unaccountable damage here with the Hector in hand now. So he's got some push, but not as much as last game.
I mean, he's Akamaru Red.
All right, let's talk about Fatina for a little while. We're focusing a little bit too much on Akamaru Red. Fatina over
That's
here
fair.
has got a very solid hand. So turn 6, he's going to have to sweat, but he has Kawi into Nep for 7 and 8. So he's looking good this game as long as he can make it past next turn, which I think he's well poised to do so. This Phantom Cat's good, but it will be dealt with. And then beyond that, it's just Hector for direct damage and nothing really else for him. So I think the Kawi into the Nep this game is actually going to be really good.
This is interesting. He decides to Evo here to take that out. That's very interesting. I don't
So
know
even more
if I agree
interesting,
with
if that Lurching Corpse wasn't top decked, there would have been no option to remove it.
Sparkly stuff. Gimme.
Well,
all of the-
that's not entirely true. He did have
Oh, he had the
zombie
zombie
party.
That's-
Yeah,
that's
so he could
I
have
was going to say,
zombie
none of
party.
the followers were big enough to actually Evo into it, so that was definitely a thought.
Right.
Sparkly stuff.
So that was interesting. But
Focus on your inferno, Tina.
nonetheless, Fatina could actually start coming back here, taking the game over with the Kawi in hand. He's got the Nephthys with a follow-up turn. So he has the ability to gain a substantial amount of health through these Kawis and his Nephthys, which of course will pull Kawi. So now Akamaru Red might actually have some trouble.
This is interesting.
Now, if you're Akamaru Red,
Run away.
under no circumstances do you want to play something big here. So playing the Angel of the Word is actually a really good line because he gives Fatina minimal health instead
Minimal
of playing something big like a Gruff or a Hector or the Phantom Cat that he just top decked.
Absolutely, but I don't know if it's going to be enough this game. So we see
I
a
don't think
perfect
so.
Nephthys here. We see a Death Breath now freshly drawn for Fatina to kind of finish this game up. I think
oh my
he's
goodness!
wow.
Wow!
Wow,
Yeah,
with
I
the
think-
Lurching Corpse for the full clear, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Fatina is well positioned to win this game.
Yes.
Um,
Played the matchup, knew it was going to be good in this matchup. Kind of got busted up last time by it, but this time firmly in control.
On the
Yeah.
warfield, a shining helmet.
Now, Akamaru Red's gonna opt to just ignore
I bloom on
the things that are on board because there's no way he can deal with them anyway right now.
Right.
So he's just opting to ignore it, but he's not getting past these Death Breaths right now. He doesn't have Hungering Word in hand.
I'm sorry.
His board is completely clear. Like there's not. He's not getting past this. He's
Yeah, this
you
is
know
this
he's
is
not
too much.
voodooing his way out of this game. Yeah, he's not voodooing
Right.
himself out
Exactly.
of this game.
Exactly. Now, I would really be interested to see Fatina just kind of sweep the matchup, going on the back foot here, only because it would basically make these concessions that he's making just make a lot more sense. He's just like, I know the matchup so well that I know what decks I can't beat. I know what decks aren't worth my time, and I want to save literally all of my brain power for the important matchup.
I think that's fair, but I mean, at this point, this game is a done deal. Like this right now, I mean, he's just drawing cards to draw cards.
Yeah.
I mean, use all your resources, you know.
Phantom Cat's good here, but you know,
I see.
it's not going to be enough. So Fatina getting back on track here, getting a game
got
win
on
under
the
his
board.
belt. Yep.
But now he's gonna have to play against Roach for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's still got Ramp Dragon in his lineup, which Roach also does well against. So
And
he's got
honestly,
Control
what's
Bud and
what's
Roach.
what's
That's
interesting in this matchup is now Nep Shadow's gone. So like I feel like that was your best option against Roach. So I think
Yes.
you're right. Roach is also very well poised here.
So Akamaru Red has Roach and he has D-Shift remaining, which are very good versus both of Fatina's remaining
Well,
decks.
D Shift was the free win at the first match.
Oh,
So
right, he
I believe
conceded
that's
that.
that.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're-
So
he conceded
like
that,
you
you're right.
said,
So he
D
still
Shift
has-
he removed the matchup.
Yeah, so yeah, he has Roach and he
This
still has
one's
the
for
neutral
my
blood that he
family.
just lost.
My
Yeah.
quarry won't escape that easy.
Yep, and this is a 50-50 matchup. This really just depends on how fast Roach combo can get online because Akamaru Red isn't doing anything crazy. He's not doing Beauty and the Beast combos. He's not doing anything special. He's just doing straightforward Roach, and if he can assemble the combo before Dragon can basically win or set up board control, yeah.
That's
It's not the
what you
worst
wanna
though.
see.
These are all combo cards, so it's not the worst thing.
Well, it's not the worst against Dragon.
Right.
Because
Right.
Dragon's
Specifically
already going to be moving pretty slow. So drawing the roaches like that naturally is not nearly as bad.
It's also
matchup,
hidden information. This
Yeah.
might actually, so this is kind of a situation that as a roach player, I know when your opponent doesn't know that you have roaches in your hand, you kind of don't play like they have them because you don't expect them to, and it can set you up for disaster sometimes.
Gotcha.
Basically not playing the ward on the correct turn because you don't think they have it, and they just randomly do, and you're like, oh my god, are you serious? He had 2 naturally drawn roaches. What is this nonsense?
Yeah, you do feel pretty bad after that.
Mhm.
Just saying. So he's just gonna jam. He's just gonna fill the board, get in any damage that he can. There's really not much else he could do. So, I mean, I think that's okay. He will be able to play APM next turn, and Fatina will actually be able to clear board.
I love the line of play from Fatina here. Getting rid of every single point of chip damage that Akamaru Red has access to, I think, is a great play.
It's the best thing you can do in this matchup, for sure. But, I mean, when you just draw nature's guidances, you know, it's just
This
it's
is
just
insane. Fun. This is insane, okay? So, now, it's not like Akamaru Red's going to be able to just bust out the gates, because he technically does have full combo, but that full combo is not going to be able to do 19 damage.
Right.
So, and especially after this fervor happens, 20 damage. So, unless there's like an angelic snipe or a couple, he's still going to be a little ways away from killing his opponent here.
Yeah. Not only that, but we definitely can see that Akamaru Red literally has... Wow.
Oh my...
Okay.
I can't believe it, dude. I can't with
can't.
Akamaru Red. So he still hasn't won the game. He's still at least a turn or 2 away. And Fatina is on 10 play points already. So if he decides to just go in here with Bahamut, he might be able to just take the game away before Akamaru Red can win. So this is going to be really close. This really hinges upon what Fatina decides to do over the course of the next few turns here.
I can't with Akamaru Red, though. Like, he's just drawing. He's naturally drawing all of his combo pieces. All of them.
It's all hidden information.
Yeah.
The only information that Fatina has is that there are 2 0-cost fairies in hand. That is it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my goodness, stop it! Stop it!
Dude, Akamaru Red, are you insane? How much damage is it? So he can cast Double Fairy, he can cast Angelic Snipe, so that's 3 spells into 4, 5, 6, which is 15, 16, 17, 18. So he's only got 18 damage this turn. Unless I didn't count the Angelic Snipe, he might have 19 damage, but it's not 20. He needs one more turn and or one more spell he can cast to do the full 20.
I just can't with this dude. Like, look. Okay, so usually you have to do a lot of digging to get your pieces.
Right.
Akamaru Red just says, you know what, man? You know what? I don't need to dig. I'm just gonna draw.
Next turn on turn 8, he has straight up over 20 damage lethal if there isn't a ward. And if Fatina can't just win the game next turn, it's going to be over. He can deal 10, 11, 12, 13. He can deal 13 damage next turn, which is not lethal.
Right.
And Akamaru Red basically just saying, that 1 damage, I need to get rid of it just in case you can set up a lethal somehow.
Right. So, which we can see that he doesn't have.
Right.
But, I mean, well, that's not helping him.
That's game. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Akamaru Red? Are you
a real person?
Are you real?
Are you a real person? Like, do you really exist, man?
Like, if I'm Fatina, I'm sitting pretty. I'm like, I've won this game easy. There are no roaches. There's no possible way you can have Angelic. Even if he didn't have the Nature's Guidance in hand, he top decked the lethal with the Fairy Sword.
Is this guy a real person?
Dude, I can't take this right now. I cannot take. I feel so bad for Fatina right now.
Yeah, not a real person.
I won't
Not a real
let you
person.
get away.
This man,
Akamaru Red
Akamaru.
confirmed robot of Shadowverse.
Yeah.
This is like you're playing against your godlike shooter. You're just like, how do they have it every single time?
Is this man real? Like, is he real? Oh, the public library is doing wonders for this man. Okay, Akamaru Red.
I want so much to see the video feed of Akamaru Red right now, of just like his face after drawing every single one of those pieces.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. All right, so Akamaru Red only has to push out 1 win against 2 decks with his neutral blood deck. What I thought was his Achilles heel. Do you think he can do it, Aya?
Man, yeah. Because you know what, man? I just can't bet against Akamaru Red, dude.
I'm feeling you, man. I'm feeling you.
I feel bad for being. I don't mean to sound like we're showing such favoritism, but it's so hard.
I feel bad for Fatina. I want Fatina to come back and win some games here. I don't want Akamaru Red to be drawn like this. This is insanity.
This is you don't see this, okay?
You can't make a better script for somebody to just like win a finals. You know what I mean?
Right. This is so disgusting, man. It is.
All right,
and
so let's talk.
Okay.
Let's talk. Let's talk about. Stop talking about the train. That is Akamaru Red right now. This matchup, I think, is favored for Dragon, very heavily. So when Spawn of the Abyss was in the deck, and it was this, huge overlord of the game, I feel like Neutral Blood had the edge by large margins. Play Spawn of the Abyss even empty into basically preventing your opponent from playing Bahamut. But now I think with the lead gain available to Dragon, I think that it can really come back and not really worry about the unaccountable damage that we were talking about that this deck can.
Right. I think, based on what we see right now in Fatina's hand, he's going to have a really difficult time, I think. He has the Queen of the Dread Sea, and Akamaru Red's just pushing face. He's like, I don't even care. Like, his face all the time. And I don't necessarily disagree with that line either, with him just going face. But what I was saying about Fatina is he does have ways of being able to clear board in hand, but is he, with the current hand that he has right now, is he going to be able to stave off the aggression that Akamaru Red's going to be putting forth?
So I feel like, just like last game, Fatina's kind of in a great spot. He didn't know he was in a bad spot last game. Like, if me being the Dragon player, I would have thought I was winning that game for sure. But just like last game, he's ramping super fast. Again, he's going to be on 10 play points, not next turn, but the turn after, and he's going to be able to plop down Zeus. And with the current hand, maybe even something to go along with it if he chooses the Queen of the Dread Sea option.
Well, I mean, at the very least, we do know that Akamaru Red in his list, I don't believe at all, has any way of being able to clear a Zeus and Queen of the Dread Sea. So he could just say, you know what, man, we're jamming it, and we're jamming all night long. I'm playing all these cards. I don't care about my hand. Deal with it.
I think it's a great push because Scyther is the Dragon card you can pick just to take out a follower or even push more damage.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So
I like it.
I like this.
Going.
I love it. I love it. He's just saying,
you know what?
Yep. And there's literally nothing in Akamaru Red's hand that's gonna get him through this.
Let's play again.
There's nothing.
This is an insanely fast. I don't actually think that we've seen Queen of the Dread Sea played so fast. This is, I ramped to 10. I have exactly the right amount of cards in my hand to Queen of the Dread Sea, and I'm just going to push. And I'm going to say, you know what? You don't have an answer to Zeus. You're dead.
Yeah, this is over. There's no board clears in Akamaru Red's hand. There's no way of clearing the Zeus. Even if he did clear the Zeus, he would not be able to clear the Queen of the Dread Sea, which is lethal on its own. So Fatina said, man, your luck is irrelevant, bro.
That's right. You got good draws. I got good draws too, man. This is even better. I love this. We're going to a last game. Akamaru Red's draws. I really hope, you know what, I really hope, just for my own sake, to get my own point on the scoreboard, that I was right about this neutral blood deck, saying that it was the deck. That was the deck that I didn't think was going to win.
Well, it is control blood versus neutral blood right now. So,
that's right.
I mean, Control Blood is very well poised to win this specific matchup. This is almost what Control Blood was designed to be. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Just a straightforward aggro deck. Yep.
yeah, and again, while we've seen some incredibly amazing draws from Akamaru Red, it will look like that Fatina giving up that first game to get D-Shift out of the lineup is actually paying off.
Just not even taking his time to play against D-Shift, not even worrying about it, just saying, I know the rest of this matchup. I know how it should go. You got lucky last time with Neutral Blood. I'm not letting it happen again.
Oh, no, not a hand you want. You don't want those. The Revelation's okay. If he draws a Blood Moon, that will be very strong for him. But it looks like Akamaru Red he is going first, too. So there's that. And Fatina has a good...
I will say luck like crazy has been on Akamaru Red's side. He's been on the play with his aggro decks. He's been getting very good draws all across the board. But Fatina, regardless of all this, going second, not getting the best of draws. That last draw was pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
His hand is actually not bad, though. So if you think about it, he does have Vampiric Kiss. He does have Sabrewer. He has the Diabolic Drain. If he draws a Blood Moon, his hand gets instantly turned on. And it's really good.
And this is actually a match where Serpent can actually shine. Because as we saw, Akamaru Red doesn't have a lot of board clear options. It's mostly just about dealing damage to face. So if the board gets filled up with even 2 Maelstrom Serpents, it might be, you know, too good on a single turn for Akamaru Red to even come back to that.
Indeed. And what we're seeing right now is Fatina's going to have to play this Righteous Devil to take out this ward. And I know that has to feel bad for him because usually you want to play Righteous Devil when you have Blood Moon out or you're in Vengeance, just naturally. But Akamaru Red he hasn't pushed enough damage for that to take place. So this is basically just a vanilla 4-4 Evo, 4-7 Evo, sorry, that he played. And Lirio's going to clear this up.
I will also say that there is a stark difference between our EU players and the Rage players that we saw last week playing for the finals, essentially. Look at how fast the EU players are playing. They know what they're doing on their turns. They're not taking a second glance to recheck what they're doing. They're just on point. They know what their lines are. They're not afraid to play them. And this is just speedy Shadowverse.
It is really fast. And actually, from caster's perspective, I actually kind of like that. I like that they're just, you know what, man? Jam it, keep jamming. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
All right, so here we see the big push. There is a Diabolic Drain, like you said, to kind of stem the bleeding, but that's really it. There are Revelations there to clear boards, so Fatina's definitely not in a bad spot, and now Mask of Black Death. So now he's getting a lot of his options to kind of stay alive here. I like this. Okay.
Well, if he manages to survive a little bit longer, just a little bit longer, he will indeed be able to keep the board nice and clean because he'll have the rev. He has 2 revs, and if for some reason he would be put into Vengeance, he does have the Serpents to help take over the board. So
I've got something really fun to talk to you about right now. You ready for this?
Sure.
Maelstrom Serpent, when it first came out, what was your opinion of it? What was your opinion of it?
My opinion of Maelstrom Serpent was that it was going to be the control blood finisher of choice.
So, and everybody hated you. Nobody believed you. What if Maelstrom Serpent is the card that wins NGE Finals?
Well, I will A, tell everyone I told them so. B, I would be a very happy person because I was one of the few people who believed in this card. Okay.
It's funny because we even talked about Maelstrom Serpent before the match, saying that it probably wasn't well poised, but in this particular matchup, it could be the defining card. I love it.
Yeah, it could be the defining card for sure. I like that Akamaru. Oh my goodness! Stop it. Okay, this is awesome. Oh wait, that's lethal. Akamaru, that's lethal.
That's it.
Got it. Razor
The Phantom Cat got the 4 damage.
Wait,
with the Razor Claw.
Akamaru is the first place
Oh
winner.
my God.
Hold on.
Akamaru Red.
Wait. This is a moment. Hold on. First of all, Akamaru Red gets first. But wait. Okay, Aya Senpai, list me off the top of your head what decks Akamaru Red was running from from what we just saw to the first deck. Okay.
Okay.
We just saw.
We just saw him play Neutral Blood.
Uh-huh.
We saw him play D-Shift.
Yeah.
And we saw him play Roach. And since I hate that I have to do this, but he didn't win with Forest. So, as a man of my word, I have to get rid of it. I have to get rid of the curse. I have to.
Forest is not. Who would have ever thought? Who would have ever thought in Wonderland Dreams?
This hurts me so much.
In Wonderland Dreams,
I did.
With everything crazy that happened since mid-blood with Spawn of the Abyss turning into neutral rune. We didn't see a single neutral burn rune in the grand finals. We had D-Shift making it back, and we had Forest take the first place position. Akamaru Red, two series he won.
Feels good. Feels good. I knew Forest was where it was at the whole time. I never doubted Forest.
I cannot imagine what Akamaru Red must be feeling like, and we're going to get the opportunity to talk to him shortly about his win.
Please.
But that was an insane journey. Akamaru Red, not only was he getting the options that he needed, but he was playing out of his mind. How intense must that have been? I mean, his Forest game, he had 3 turns where he literally did not have a play because he could not play any of his combo pieces, and he was 1 turn away from being destroyed and did 21 damage in 1 turn. 21 damage is insane, and then he wins with Phantom Cat neutral? Probably the last Bloodcraft deck. Everybody's talking about bats, they're talking about Karabos, they're talking about control, and in comes Akamaru Red, says Phantom Cat is what I want, and Phantom Cat is what did it. Phantom Cat is what did it, and so Akamaru Red gets first place as a Wonderland Dreams champion for the 2nd season of the Shadowverse Open, and Fatina falls to 2nd place. And we're trying to get Akamaru Red on the line to have some of his thoughts about now being the first place winner of Season 2. Akamaru Red, are you here? Are you on the line here with us?
I am, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clearly. Now, first of all, thank you for maintaining your library of books here. I think we all have a lot of fun seeing you play in this environment. But, oh my god! How are you feeling right now?
I have my first words I want to say. I did it, Aya. I broke the curse.
He broke the curse! The hero of the people! Oh my god, thank you for all you do for the environment and the green and the trees. What? Okay, so let's talk about this lineup of bringing combo and bringing Phantom Cat. Now, we talked about it a little bit, but I think it'd be best to hear from your own mouth. During the round robin, you look like a very different player based on your deck submissions. What convinced you to bring this lineup today, specifically even against Fatina? Because you must have been aiming for first place, right? Fatina was a match that you were looking to play. What was the philosophy behind going into this tournament?
Yeah, whoever knows me, I'm sorry, I'm sorry about this. Whoever knows me, they know I'm 80% preparation and 20% skill and knowledge. So what happened last week, and I have to say I'm sorry for the people that support me. What happened last week is because I misunderstood the rules. I didn't know I was going to play Fatina. So my lineup was not prepared for Fatina, and I got destroyed. It deserved to win. This week, though, I prepared a lot. I saw the VODs. I done a ton of lineups, and I knew Fatina is a control/combo player. And that's why the Phantom Cat is there, because Phantom Cat is probably the best deck against the combo lineup. And combo lineups, of course, are strong against control. I know he likes Haven, I know he likes D-Shift. I prepared my D-Shift to be as fast as possible in the mirror, and Phantom Cat is just amazing. It's a sleeper on the meta.
Oh, man. That's incredible. And we were talking about it. Exodium mentioned it, Aya Senpai mentioned it, and what I would like to ask was, in terms of preparation for these decks, playing such a different style, how was that for you? Was it difficult to kind of adopt the combo mentality? Was it difficult to pick up Phantom Cat? What were the challenges? Was it a challenge for you?
The most challenged deck was actually D-Shift because I don't have a lot of games. I think I had to see the VODs. I think I made a couple of mistakes. I think I could have lethal earlier, but I'll check that out. But Phantom Cat, I'm used to that. We practice a lot of Phantom Cat in HSK. We have 2 players that built Phantom Cat, and they actually were the ones that helped me because I was checking their decks and I was seeing them. I played a lot against them. I was like, this is really impressive. I was playing Forest. I can't do anything because it's so fast. He has a neutral curve and then he has the reach. He can do. You saw in the last game. He can do like 8 damage out of nothing, out of thin air. And so I prepared like that. And I know SC likes Forest, so I went with Shadow because Shadow is probably the strongest class against the Forest. And I'm sorry, what was the question? I'm sorry.
No, you were doing perfectly fine. I mean, it was asking about your preparation, and that was absolutely insane. You put a lot of time into kind of figuring out Phantom Cat, and you did your best you could with D-Shift, and you did fantastically with it. Now, you must be feeling pretty nervous, pretty excited about taking first place in the Shadowverse Open. Who are the teammates that helped you get to this point? Is there anybody in particular you want to kind of mention?
Yeah, I wanna mention HSK Teji because he always helps me prepare. He always plays against me. HSK Dominus because he was actually the one who built the list, and I'm actually have to say I'm sorry, Dominus. I didn't ask him if I could use Phantom Cat. I just used it, and now I want to thank him because last week he did really well, and this week he did well as well. So I want to thank Teji, Dominus, everyone in HSK. I want to thank Suzume. He supported me a lot. I had to take him out of the tournament, unfortunately, but that's the tournament. I want to thank everyone in HSK, my family, my parents. I just went to the living room and I told them I won, and they were like so happy because they knew I was gonna play. My dad came to my room and he was like, Don't be afraid. Don't be sad if you lose. You've done so well, and I'm gonna leave you alone now. My parents were like, "We're gonna leave you alone. You'll be in your zone. Just focus, and we'll wait for you."
Yeah,
Are
they listening right now? Can you pull them into the room?
My mother is. I think she's watching the stream actually. She has no idea what a stream is. She has no idea what Twitch is. But I posted on Facebook, and she went there and she was like, "Oh, you won! I saw you win." She thought I won because I won the first series, and she's like, "Oh, you won!" And I'm, "No, Mom, I won the second series because there's gonna be another series."
That's so incredible! Oh my gosh, it must feel great to have your family kind of watching and supporting you as you took this win. That's incredible. If you could grab them and pull it on the stream, that would be incredible. But I want to ask a little bit more about kind of how you felt coming into the Season 2 of the Shadowverse Open. I remember kind of from our first interview, you were talking about how, it was very new to you. You kind of just happened into this scene from some encouragement from your HSK friends. Now, how do you feel seeing that you took first place, and where do you stand? Where does your confidence lie, and kind of how do you feel about Shadowverse competitively?
I like to stay to the ground. I think I'm still very new. I think I still have a lot to improve on. There's a ton of archetypes I have not practiced at all, and I think it's just my preparation helped me win this tournament because every single week I prepared a lot against my specific opponents, and I think round robin and open list are my format because I played in closed decks and for different formats, and I was not doing as well. I think open lists, I'm always checking the list every single turn. I'm thinking what my opponent can do, what are my wins, what are my outs, and just preparation, just being able to prepare a lineup. And it works so well every single week. Yes. My lineups and my prediction of the first pick actually was always flawless, except 1 week, which was the hardest. But yeah, just prepare. I'm also happy that players that are new to the scene, they can come and see my example. And they're like, oh, if he did it, maybe I can. You just need to put hard, and put passion onto the game, and you will collect the fruit and rewards.
You heard it here first. Akamaru Red talking about preparation and believing that you too can be a competitive Shadowverse player. All it takes is time, is the passion, is the preparation. So kind of two last questions here for you, Akamaru Red. Is there anything you want to say to the other EU competitors, to the other, especially Fatina, who came in second? Is there anything you want to tell the other competitors here, and kind of, any messages that you want to send out to all the other great Shadowverse players that you had to play against?
Yeah, I want to thank them all. They always they always made me challenge myself. They always made me become a better player. I wanna thank Essia. I wanna thank Fatina. I know this day is really hard. I probably know what they're feeling because I also thought about that. I wanna say Fatina, don't be down. It was really harsh on him, and I saw it throughout the games that he was not having a good time. And I just want to say, Fatina, just keep your head up, just keep focused, and just because he also is a very passionate player, he puts a lot of work on the game, but just keep your head up and just improve. And I want to thank everyone else on EU. Don't let your American players or friends tell you EU is a bad region, because I felt it. I felt it in my skin, and you guys are really good players. It was really hard every single week, and I want to thank you all for making this a fantastic trip.
All right, so the World Grand Prix is coming up. You are the first place finisher of Season 2 of the Shadowverse Open. What are your plans for the World Grand Prix? Are you looking forward to it? Is there any rest for you? Are you going to take your $6,500 and go on vacation? What's happening for Akamaru Red?
Nah, I'm not gonna rest. I want to go to the Worlds. I want to go there just to face and play against the Asian players. My teammates on HSK, they were like, oh, we want to go to Japan. We love the Japan culture. We want to see the stores, the shops, everything else. I'm like, no, I just want to go to Japan to play against Asian players because I'm passionate about the game. I just want to play against what they're called the best in the world. So I just want to play against them. And yeah, I'm definitely setting my sights to Season 3, and I want to focus on that. And now I'm just gonna rest for a bit and then just work because it's not ending. We're having a new expansion in literally like 5 or 6 days.
Yes.
So it's like work.
New
I
game.
wanna get to work.
Yep. It's going to be a new game, a new setting, but you are the champion for Europe for the Wonderland Dreams expansion here. Give a shout out, any shout outs that you want. Is it to Mama and Papa Akamaru Red? Any other last words that you want to throw into the interview? I know you're probably elated from your win and I want to let you go, but here's your platform, Akamaru Red. Take it away.
Thank you. I want to shout out to HSK. My mom, my dad, my brother is actually coming to visit me because he knew today was the final. So I'm very excited. I want to thank him especially because he's always a support. He always loves what I do, no matter what it is. And a special shout out to my friend Sponge Pedro. He also likes what I do. He also likes to watch me play. And I think I'm forgetting about a lot of people, but thank you for the guys who supported me throughout this journey. I always see you shouting Aka in the chat, like, go Aka, one more game, let's go. I love that. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Akamaru Red, for your absolutely stellar performance, and I look forward to seeing you more and more, and hopefully, I look forward to seeing you in Tokyo if we're ever down there, or for any kind of Shadowverse community. Congratulations again. Really, really fantastic job. And thanks so much for taking the time and talking to us. I'm going to let you go celebrate with your friends and family. Thank you so much. Just a heartfelt thank you for playing Shadowverse and competing with us. And I'm sure Aya and Exo have similar sentiments. So that'll be it. And Akamaru Red, good luck in preparing for Starforge Legends. And we're going to have to keep the show rolling because we still have the North American Finals coming up after this. But Akamaru Red with an absolutely fantastic performance. Let's take a look at the bracket to just recap exactly who's placed where. Akamaru ends up resetting and taking the first place finish, is the winner there, 3-2 over Fatina. Actually, he is 3-2 and 3-0, so he is in total 6-2 against Fatina. Absolutely stellar performance. Fatina, though, nothing to feel ashamed of. Second place is a really, really strong finish, especially for the kind of player and the lineups that he was bringing in, the start that he had in the tournament. And of course, Essia in third place is going to wrap up the day for Europe today. Guys, I can't. That interview was way too wholesome for me. I can't.
What a fantastic dude Akamaru Red is. You know what I mean? Great for the community, great player. Like, I want to see him around for a long time. I think he's perfect for Shadowverse.
Oh my God, the
Agreed.
European champion, and it just makes me happy to know that he had his family supporting him. He had his friends supporting him. And of course, that's going to mean that he is the #1. The first ever. This was the first season Europe had a Shadowverse Open competition. And so he is the #1. He is a champion here. But when we're about to go to a little bit of a break and kind of rest after that insane grand finals, and when we come back, the insanity continues, because this time it's North America, and there are some storylines there. Jay-Z is on top versus Les. The two biggest names in Season 1 are about to possibly go head-to-head. Les, from the loser's side, still has to fight through the old man Gengar, the one of the most history competitors in Shadowverse. So you don't want to miss out on that. Who is going to be the Season 2 winner for North America? We've discovered Europe, but North America is yet to be found out. When we come back from the break, we are looking to see who that will be, so don't go anywhere. More Shadowverse coming at you. Shadowverse Open, we just concluded the European Grand Finals, and Akamaru Red, the favorite during the entirety of the group stage but got knocked into loser's bracket, was able to beat the second and third place match, move on to the Grand Finals, reset the bracket, and win against Fatina to take first place to become the European champion. But now we are in the North American Finals, and it's going to be the losers finals, and that's going to be between Lest and Gengar, and whoever moves on has to face up against oh my gosh, I can't even whoever moves on is going to have to face up against Jay-Z to see who will become the champion there. And this is a very interesting storyline, just because Jay-Z was Season 1's tournament champion, and now he could be Season 2's champion as well. And so back to back, taking both seasons first place is going to be an incredible kind of accolade for Jay-Z and a score line there. But let's take a look at the bracket and see exactly how these matches will play out. Lest, of course, another big name from Season 1, was the highest points earner, and so there's a lot of people from Season 1, and this almost seems like an entire lineup of people who have previous histories here, because Gengar is no new kid on the block in terms of competitive Shadowverse. He's been around for a long time, so all three of these names have experience and knowledge behind them and wisdom behind them when it comes to competitive Shadowverse. We're just going to have to see what happens. Is there going to be another bracket reset? Is it going to be just as insane as Europe? I have no idea what to expect anymore. I mean, I knew Europe was going to be crazy. We looked at the deck lineups and knew that it was going to be a little bit insane, but that was an ending. That was an interesting outcome. So, of course, I'm ready. That's Andre Pickens and Justin Carter. You know, I've been thinking about it. We should have a Twitch chat poll to see what is the most favorable way to address you guys.
I like it. I like it.
Hey, I don't care. Like,
let's do it. Let's do a poll. What do you like Randy calling us?
Yeah.
Let's go.
You guys, we just saw Forestcraft win a tournament, win the finals of Shadowverse tournament. It feels real great. Is that gonna happen back to back?
Well, I can take a little solace in the fact that I was right that Akamaru Red was gonna win.
Yes, this is
That's
true.
Fair. That's fair.
So,
and he decided to bring Forest, so good on him.
Let's talk a little bit about North America. Now, only Lest is running Forestcraft, I believe. And I think he's only running it in the Grand Finals against Jay-Z. He actually opted not to take Forestcraft against Gengar, and that's going to be our first matchup. So between Lest and Gengar, let's start from Aya. Who do you think is going to win, and do you have a particular kind of player that you're actually rooting for? What does your mind say? What does your heart say?
Well, I like both players. I've had the opportunity to talk with them a little bit since the last time I was on, and but I'm rooting for Lest, man. He's been kind of like, if Care Package didn't make it, Lest was my guy.
Lest was your dude.
I'm rooting for Lest. Okay.
All right.
One, he's been incredibly good and very consistent throughout the entire event, and two, I just like the guy. So that's favoritism all the way. All
right, we'll see. We'll see if that comes to play. For you, Exodium, is it similar? The deck lineups, is it leaning one way or the other for you? And who is your kind of favorite here?
So it's interesting, the lineup that NA decided to bring. The only deck swap over the entire course of today is Lest with the one deck swap into Forest for the finals. Everything else is pretty much just straightforward. So I think for the first matchup, Gengar has a slight edge. I think his matchup is better suited for Lest, but he didn't decide to retech for the finals. So unlike Akamaru Red, even if he does destroy his first match here, he might not have the preparation he needed for the finals, or maybe he just thinks his decks are just so good that it doesn't matter what he goes up against. He just really likes what he's doing. So it'll be very interesting to see. But if that's the case, I think Gengar might win this, and I think Jay-Z will go on to win it. That's just my predictions, like out the gates, just from the deck designs. But I would really like to see Lest win as well. I like Lest. Lest is the only player that I've actually met in person. I think he's a great guy.
We did get to
That's right, at Anime Expo a few months back. And he's a great person. I think just like Akamaru Red, Lest is great for the game. Not saying that Jay-Z or Gengar aren't, but Lest he's a straightforward guy. He's very good for the community. He's always happy. He brings a very strong presence with him. So I'm also rooting for Lest.
For you, Aya, do you think ultimately Jay-Z is going to be the one who takes the win if you're going by deck lineups and preparation?
if I'm going by that, I think Jay-Z is very well positioned to take this. Yeah, I think he's going to 2P.
And that isn't surprising. He has consistently shown how good he is in this bracket environment, especially. I think the round robin would have been the most challenging thing for Jay-Z, but he's over that gap right now, and he's back into bracket play where he's comfortable, and he has a winner's advantage. We saw that fade away in Europe for Fatina, but that might not be the case for Jay-Z. Let's go in depth for these decks here. Let's start with Lest. He's got neutral rune, but he's included the late game package as well. And this was something that we saw in Rage, you know, where players were running neutral rune, but they made sure that they had enough gas to have the resources to play out these longer matches and have the options to be able to fight against some of the big bodies that might be coming down in the 8, 9, 10 play points range. And then he's got an aggressive blood variant. I think we should discuss that a little bit. And then neutral sword. So, Exilium, do you have any thoughts about the deck lineups? What do you think particularly about the blood lineup that Les is bringing?
So his blood lineup is crazy cool. So again, I mentioned Bottles because Bottles brought the first crazy blood deck we've seen in any of these tournaments. Les brought kind of a crazy deck. He's got a Vengeance blood deck with Caraboss in it and Revelation in it. So it's kind of like this weird mix of value plus Vengeance plus some kind of control. But I think that it's a good deck. I just don't know, because without testing or actually ever seeing the deck before, I don't know how well it's going to perform against Gengar. And I looked at Gengar's list, and his lineup is straightforward, like we would see from a Rage opponent. Really good control deck, D-Shift. And if D-Shift can eke out a win, especially, I think Gengar's a mad favorite. I think D-Shift is the worst deck in his lineup. I think it's going to lose, unfortunately, against what Les brought. But that being said, I think the rest of the two decks that Les has are evenly matched, if not a little unfavored against Gengar. But the control, or I wouldn't say control, but Vengeance / control / aggro blood that he's bringing.
Frankenstein blood.
Yeah, Frankenstein blood. I think that's the wild card. If that can perform really well, Les might really have a good shot to win here.
Aya Senpai, in terms of kind of looking at Gengar's lineup, we see Dragon Dread, which we've seen to be incredibly effective in many situations just because how strong it can get and how quickly it can get to that point. What do you think about Gengar? You know, when we see Akamaru Red on the other side, on Europe, I think one of the reasons why he was so successful was because his overall deck archetypes were very pointed, right? There was an overarching goal that he could lean on the weaknesses of his opponent's lineups. I feel like Gengar's decks are not necessarily in that same fashion, right? He's got combo, and he's got something that's more control-oriented or more kind of mid-game oriented. How do you feel about his lineups overall, and do you think that it's something that can be very effective for him moving through this tournament?
Well, the thing about his lineup that I find pretty interesting is that his lineup is, as you said, it's not geared to any one particular player. It's just, I think he's very comfortable with his lineup. He likes D-Shift. We've seen him play D-Shift several times in the tournament. We've seen him play Shadow. We know that he loves that. And we've seen him I think he's just very, very comfortable with this lineup. So I think he's just going to ride it all the way to the end.
All right, well, remember that this is still the losers final, so it's going to be a best of 3, and decks can be banned out. It's not going to be best of 5 until the grand finals here. So Les versus Gengar, it could be quite explosive here. We'll see. Les is going to kick off with his neutral rune, and Gengar's going to kick it off with his Dread Dragon. And these mulligans look not that bad for Gengar. What do you guys think?
Well, before we get started into the match, Aya, look at Les. Is Les a ninja? I just need to ask this question.
Okay, I'm really wondering if we're gonna start seeing some shurikens being thrown if he wins.
Right.
Okay. Are we gonna see some kunai, some shurikens? Is he gonna bust out a katana and start doing some sword forms? Actually, that'd be really cool. Les, please do that.
All right. Enough about ninjas. Let's talk about the matchup. So I know I made mention of this last week where a lot of players were bringing these pseudo dragon decks. And what I mean by that is they go to late game, they play Bahamut's, these big dragons, to kind of finish the game out. Do you think that neutral rune, being a slower variant of what I would say a dragon deck, has a chance against traditional dragon?
Actually, yeah. I think that it depends on how much Gengar is able to ramp and how fast he's able to jam his big threat. We can see in his hand that he has 2 Sybils, so he'll definitely be able to ramp. But again, the question is he going to be able to ramp fast enough to be able? Oh well, he just do a fervor, so that's certainly going to help.
Yeah, that definitely helps. And then he's got a fervor this turn into a Sybil plus a removal option and Blazing Breath if he really wants it next turn. So he's looking pretty good here. So basically what we're seeing ramp dragon versus non-ramp dragon. And most of the time in that matchup, I would say that the dragon deck that has the ramp is favored. But because of the ramp, you're a lot less resource based essentially. You don't have as many threats, you don't have as many like mid game options, that kind of thing. So Lest might just have more stuff he can play over time that might eke out a victory here.
I think I have to agree with that. Lest has, in effect, just more stuff. He does have a significant amount of draw, I think, through the Witches Suites. That's going to help him a lot. With keeping cards in hand, getting things on board. And he has Hectors and this and other, so he can do some face damage with those. He'll be able to pressure in different ways that Gengar just won't be able to.
Right.
But I think right now, what Les needs to figure out is exactly how he's going to deal with this board. Because if he plays Alice right now, all that's going to happen is, let's say he plays Alice, he evos it into the Tina. He's just going to trade into the Scyther is just going to trade into the Alice, so it's going to be like, wait, turn his evo. So he's got to really think about how he's going to go about this.
I don't mind the Alice because, again, it does pump everything in hand, so it's never a bad play to get the Alice out there. The sooner the better, usually, just so you can get the stat buff. But like you said, he can easily trade with the Scyther. He can, even if he wants to, evo the Sybil just to go over the Alice to push some face damage if he wants to. He didn't play the Fervor last turn, so he really wanted to set up the Scyther for this turn. Probably the turn right before something like a Felice could come out to kind of kill it immediately, so he can get some good value out of it. So I like the tempered approach that Gengar has here. He didn't super ramp, but he is going to start getting to the ramp right now, which is going to start pushing. And he did draw that Bahamut freshly, and I think him playing Bahamut super early in this matchup might be really good. But, and sorry if I'm speaking too much right now, the pump from Alice actually makes Saha Quill into Bahamut, kill a Bahamut without losing your own, which is super strong.
That is really strong. It's not something that you see happen often, or really ever, but it's certainly something that could definitely happen. So I'm taking a quick look at Lest's list, and there's one very important or very interesting card that we see, or that I see, and it's Illusionist.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That is incredibly.
I think Illusionist as a tech card in this list is just as you say. It's super relevant because of the things that you can pull with it.
Yeah. It can pull Zeus. It can pull your own Bahamut. It can pull Israfil, Gilgamesh. So
Lucifer.
It has many. Well, there's no Lucifer in this deck.
Not in this one, yeah. But I'm just saying, like, in general, this is the style of list that Illusionist can really gain the most amount of value from.
Yep. So, he is playing yet another Sybil, which we knew he had. He's got plenty of draw for the coming turns. He's sitting on... Wow. Yeah,
he let this damage through.
Well, let's think about it for a second here, okay? So, let's say that Lest, for some reason, doesn't have a way of clearing that Sybil without trading into it with his Hector.
True.
Then, you know, he would have to burn a significant amount of resources to do so. Now, we do know that he has a way of being able to do that, but let's say that he didn't. So, Gengar's line was not necessarily bad. He does have to deal with this Sybil one way or the other.
And it's interesting, Felice was almost perfect enough to kill this Sybil, but we're seeing the downside of playing a card like Illusionist in the fact that it's not a neutral card. So Felice actually didn't get... Same with Witch's Suite, absolutely. So basically just one neutral shy of being able to deal with this Sybil perfectly, which does, like you said, put him kind of in a weird spot. He's got to either use his last Evo or he's got to trade the 7-1 into it, whatever he decides to do. And getting rid of your last Evo before your opponent, kind of rough when you're playing big followers into big followers, presumably for the rest of the game.
Yeah, so let's see what happens. He trades. Oh, he's actually gonna use the Evo and go face.
Base damage. I love it. I love this.
Now
This
does immediately prompt the Bahamut.
right. You have to Bahamut here unless you draw something out of it. Wow.
Wow, indeed.
If this Bahamut wasn't able to be dealt with, that Ariat could have made things super amazing this turn.
Yeah.
But as we know,
Ariat Bahamut, bro. Oh, he has an Odin too in hand, so
yes, he does.
yeah. So yeah, this is an easy Saha Quail into his Bahamut. His Bahamut, as you said earlier, is empty. So 14-14. So it will be able to trade into Bahamut out 9.
And I have yet to see this in actual competitive play, but super relevant this game. Super relevant this game. It allowed him to use the Evo point last turn, so he didn't have to use the Evo point this turn on the Bahamut, just so he could basically keep it around if he wanted it.
Right. Now, we do see Gengar has 2 Draconic Fervors. He could play both if he was really feeling like that. He doesn't have to worry about Felice Storm anymore. You know, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So he could play both, or he could opt to just play one and then play a Dragon Summoner. Obviously, he's not playing the area.
Dragon Summoner first to maybe pull something just so he can have a big threat this turn. But we're kind of getting into this game where Lest is starting to catch up in play points. And as we said, even before this situation occurred, he just has more stuff. So it looks like he just has a better endgame here just because he has more things he can do instead of just stalling to draw cards or tutoring for something. Like, he just has straightforward plays that he can just keep pushing with.
Indeed. So, now, let's say you're a Gengar. What would you need to draw in order to get yourself back into this game?
So that's definitely one of the options, especially with Ariat. Now, if he can top deck something immediately like Queen of the Dreadsea, he might be in fantastic shape. So that's basically after the gen... Oh.
Oh.
Wow.
Interesting.
Okay, so really doesn't want to take the damage. I can respect that.
Well, he is at 10. He's been holding on to these fervors for quite a while.
Yeah.
He's hugging them for dear life. I'm interested to know why that he is deciding to hold these fervors. He could just simply feel it's not the time for him, or whatnot. I mean, right there, I think
Ariat, that's interesting to me because Gengar hasn't put a lot of damage on Lest yet. And without the Ariat comboing into something with the Dreadsea, I don't know how long it's actually going to take Gengar to deal some damage here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Let's see. He only has he has 2 Ariats, so he does have access to 1 additional. But again, him throwing away that Ariat really just made it harder for him to combo finish.
Right.
If that was, that would have been a great way for him to end the game. And the biggest kick in the foot that would be there would be if he draws Queen of the Dreadsea next game.
Right. Exactly, Queen of the Dreadsea. Yep.
I mean, it's been known to happen. Okay.
100%. We've seen players today draw cards that they need off the top. I'm not going to name any names.
No, it never
But
happened.
we've definitely seen it happen.
Okay, it wasn't that.
No, it wasn't that. So here he's in an interesting spot. So the longer he chooses to not pop these fervors, the fewer options he's going to have going into the next few turns. Like, he's just drawing 1 card a turn. He's got a lot less of basically just stuff to do than Lest does. So I think he really needs to pop these. This is the least amount of damage he's seen across from him. I think he has to go for it this turn just so he can open up his hand. He needs just more things that he can do.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Lest's hand, and it's stacked. He's got Odin, Israfil, and Bahamut. He has Witch's Sweets if he needs to draw cards. He has Illusionist if he needs to recur something. He has Mr. Grimoire to draw more cards. So his hand is stacked right now. And he's not doing that at all. He's like, you know what? Nope.
And he's using the Genesis Dragon to clear. So again, where is Gengar going to find lethal damage now?
I don't know if I agree with this, man.
I don't know if I like this line at all. I felt like double fervor there, open up the hand, but now it's just like I'm all in with the last threat I had. He's just hoping it's good enough.
I don't know. Maybe he's thinking. all right, he could have Gilgamesh over there, which we know he does. We know he has in his deck, but he could be thinking that. Let me clear this, so I take the lethal off board. But again, yeah, he wouldn't have been lethal. It wouldn't have been lethal had he played the fervor.
Right. Right. So we're in an interesting spot for Gengar here. Gengar's basically just got card draw and nothing else, and oh my goodness.
Yeah, not what you want to be seeing.
Yep. And I think this is like a little bit too late because now Les can just start asserting his dominance.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, Gengar's starting to feel it too. He's
Yep.
starting to feel it.
If I was Les, even though I saw some card draw here, he's probably not going to do it. But I would consider Bahamut. But once this board gets cleaned up by what Gengar's going to do, he can easily just play Israfil, and there's no answer to this.
Well, there's a Bahamut in his hand now.
He finally got one. Awesome.
Yeah, he got something.
A true warrior of Valhalla.
Or not one, but the second one. At least just another option to play.
But Les could easily bait out that Bahamut because it's literally the biggest, best play that Gengar has in hand. So he could definitely bait out this Bahamut, and as we know, the first one to play Bahamut usually tends to lose. So they lose the Bahamut.
And this will be the second one from Gengar, and then Les, if he's heads up enough about it, he might just play Bahamut knowing that Gengar, or not knowing, but hoping that Gengar doesn't have the third Bahamut in hand.
Well, we do know that Gengar could double Breath of the Salamander to take out that Israfil, so he doesn't actually have to play Bahamut, right?
But then again, it's just going to be set up the same way the next turn. It's just he's basically just denying, denying the same type of play here.
But now we see that Queen of the Dread Sea, which is a couple of turns late, so I don't know if it matters too much that he has it now versus when he could have drawn it before.
Had he had it with Genesis Dragon and Ariat, though, he might have an easy way for victory. However, Gengar does have multiple options in his deck. It's not like Queen of the Dread Sea only has one use in the deck, and it's not like we've seen all of the combo pieces yet. So definitely can still draw into them.
Look at this hand from Les, man. This hand is stacked. Look,
so much stuff. Yep.
Cards. I mean, if you're Gengar, you have to be. Oh my goodness, how am I gonna get through all these cards?
Right, exactly. That's the only thought running through Gengar's mind right now is, can I muster up enough to deal with this much value?
Yeah, there is an unbelievable amount of. Well, that certainly can help, but there's
this might just be. Well, no, he's not gonna queen this turn. He can't queen this turn. He needs all the resources he has, so this might just be a Bahamut. He could play it safe and just play a Scyther this turn and try to hope to bait out just a little bit more from Les before he plays his Bahamut.
Well, he could also play the Fervor if he does play the Scyther, so he will be able to gain a little bit of health, and he'll be able to take out the Felice.
But knowing your opponent is playing big game threats, do you really want to use a Scyther on just a 3/6?
Oh!
Just like I said, we haven't seen all of the combo cards, so we see the combo being drawn here just when Gengar needed it.
But it's not lethal.
Is it still going to be enough? Right.
It's only 14 damage, so it's not lethal. So he has to find a way to be able to do 6 damage to Les between now and the time that he can play that combo.
Right. So the ball's really in just Les court and another Bahamut. He can just start pushing, basically just big threat after big threat, until Gengar's kind of just washed under the rug here.
Yeah, and it's looking like that. That's not going to do anything for him. So yeah, this is a
spike heal.
Well, yeah, but he can't play that right now. No way.
Right.
And I think he knows that this Bahamut is done.
Yep, and I think this is just going to prompt like, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, dude.
This is insanity.
My goodness!
This is insanity. I was waiting for him to play it, but this is the power of illusion.
What?
Yes.
What?
Les.
Did I need to get my glasses checked? There are 2 Zeuses on the.
Yeah.
Les comes up with the weirdest ways to end games. He has probably under his belt some of the weirdest wins there. and he was
Yes.
able to take another one, double Illusionist, double Zeus, and he just had all the options in the world. Now, I think, we saw this in Rage, but Mystic Grimoire, right? Draw 2 cards, 2 followers, right? And discard all the spells in your hand. Of course, this neutral Runecraft list does not run spells anyways, right? And I think Les piloted that deck really, really well. Really got a lot of options and made sure he could play out the late game, and that was against Dread Ramp. Of course, maybe we should talk about some of these decisions with Gengar throwing away the options that he had earlier on. He drew into them later, but was there a way that he could have lived and still kept those options for lethal somehow? What do you guys think?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is what we talked about early in the game. He held on to those fervors for so long. Like, he had the opportunity to play them early in the mid game. And when both decks get into the late game, it's just big threat after big threat after big threat, and you have to answer all of these things. You don't really have time to play fervor anymore. So him not drawing the cards earlier kind of hurt him in the end game, to where he kind of had to play them in inopportune moments. And it set him really far behind, and let's just kind of just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and never stopped. Yep.
He played way too safe.
Well, we'll see. Gengar still has one more chance here. Remember, it is a best of 3, and Les is up 1 now. Has gotten past his neutral Runecraft deck, and now is going to be using Froggy Sword. So, we'll see. Actually, I don't know if Frog is in there.
I don't think it's
new.
Froggy Sword.
It's not Froggy Sword. I mixed it up. I think that was in Europe that somebody was running Froggy Sword.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
this
a
is
standard
definitely
neutral
neutral.
lineup. But that's going to be going up against round 2 of Ramp Dragon. What is this matchup looking like now?
So
Well-
this is actually an interesting match. I'll let you take it real quick. The only reason I say that is because this sword deck that Les has 2 Sabakis, a Hero of Antiquity, and a Fangblade Slayer outside of its neutral roots. So kind of talk to us, Ai, about this matchup. How do you think it goes? You're more of a sword player than I am, so tell me.
Okay, well, the Fangblade Slayers, the Hero of Antiquity, those are cards that are very strong against Dragon, as well as Tsubaki, because Dragon plays very far into that really, 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 late game where it's going to be playing big followers. So Tsubaki had plenty of targets for this, and again, Fangblade Slayer can help push that additional damage, and Hero of Antiquity can just be straight up hard to get rid of for Dragon. So yeah, I kind of like this deck for him. And as we see, he is running the neutral lineup, so he does have the neutral curve. He also has access to those strong late game options.
And as we see, Gengar doesn't have the best of Dragon hands. He doesn't have a lot of the early ramp that you'd like to see with Dragon. He's got a bunch of 10 drops in his hand, 4 count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a Sybil that can come down on turn 5. But that means he's not going to have a defensive play for next turn, and it's really going to let Alice kind of dictate the tempo here.
Right. So there is absolutely no way that Les isn't playing Alice this time. Yeah, there's no way he's not playing.
He's got 3 of them. We've seen a lot of triples today, a lot of doubles, a lot of triples. Very interesting style of draws today.
For sure. I'm not entirely sure why we're seeing this today. But
multiple people drawing all of their Bahamut's early, you know what I mean? Just like in the opening hands, just craziness, man.
Yeah. But this is definitely face. And I 100% agree with this, because this now makes it where Gengar cannot clear both. He can't clear both things, even if he had something else like Sybil. He will be able to evo the Sybil to trade into the 5/5, but not be right.
A dance to make the world blue.
And this is looking pretty good. So this puts Sybil down to enough toughness to where Shield of Flame can take it out easily, and then maybe Ravity or Attendant can come down to draw a card, or maybe he wants to play the Carrot and the Goblin. But I'm pretty sure that Alice is getting evoed and going face, just like we saw last turn.
I would generally say, okay, that's a little weird.
It won't be long now.
Okay.
Okay, maybe he just wants to pump the other cards in his hand, or let's see, he has another. Yeah, he does have the third Alice, and he has a Carrot and a Goblin, so he is pumping those. But we can see
that Evo specifically put Les in a situation where he had to clear out the 1/2s to protect the evolved Atlas, which I think kind of slowed his tempo down quite a bit here. And now with Gengar catching up in ramp,
yeah.
I can't keep relying on you to
Now all these Bahamut's and Genesis Dragons are going to be really good.
yeah,
A dance to make the world blue.
absolutely. And we don't see any of the tech cards that we mentioned earlier. There aren't any Tsubakis in the hand of Les yet to deal with these big threats. So this will be his big turn, because after this turn, it's going to be Bahamut into Genesis Dragon, possibly for lethal.
Well, he does actually have access to playing the Carrot into the Rabbit Ear to draw 3 cards. So he does have that. He will have the ability to draw in 2 more cards, so that hopefully he can draw to a Tsubaki, a Fangblade Slayer, or something like that. Of course, Fangblade Slayer isn't going to do him very good right now, but maybe he could draw into those Tsubakis just so that he does have answers to those Bahamuts. But these Genesis Dragons are going to go over really well after these Bahamuts are cleared up.
Yep. And I think a more straightforward option for Les is also just, again, use Shield of Flame to deal with the Sybil, push as much face damage as you can before turn 10, before something like a Bahamut comes out, just so that you can set up for possibly a lethal with an Albert or double Albert, because we know as Sword does, Alberts can take the game away if you can get your opponent low enough fast enough.
Well, then a line that he could take would be, instead of drawing the 3 cards, he could just play Rabbit Ear Attendant or not do that at all. And
I like this.
Yeah.
This is a lethal play setup. This is exactly right along the lines of what I was thinking. This puts your opponent at 10. This means that if your opponent does not gain life or have a ward, that Albert is just lethal on turn 9, but can he get to turn 9?
Well, again, like, I really feel like this is one of those times I feel like he really should have taken the option of...
Oh, how
Wow.
perfect. So it will take away the
Never
Evo point,
mind.
but a very necessary clear on the Bahamut here.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And a Council of Card Knights. That's pretty good. Like, that does give him
That's
a
pretty
lot
good.
of stuff. That gives him a lot of stuff.
Thank you, fool
It's
me.
unbelievable. I mean, we see the other Bahamut, but
Right. But this Council of Card Knight's not very easy to deal with. He might have to Scyther or Genesis Dragon into the ward, or use the Bahamut into the ward just so he can clear out the Bane, so it doesn't kill the Bahamut, so he can set up with another Genesis Dragon. This is actually getting pretty tough for Gengar.
yeah, not to mention that if Lest is able to resolve this hero with enough trades, he will actually be able to take out the Bahamut. Now,
Right.
while I severely doubt that he's ever going to do that, I think he's going to just go, you know what, if my Carrot and one of my 1 power guys lives, I'm just going to Albert and win the game, because we see that Gengar's at 9. So if 2 things live, or the Carrot and 1 other thing lives, Les is going to take this game.
That Maisie top deck was insane.
Phenomenal.
Without that Maisie top deck, I'm pretty sure Gengar had this game easily, but that Maisie top deck, especially after the Rabbit Ear drew into the Council of Card Knights, like, just a really good run of cards for Lest here.
Well, we've seen throughout the Shadowverse Open, Lest constantly draw
He is the top
amazingly.
deck master, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Every time he needs something, he gets it.
Your Majesty.
So just as you said, he has to clear out Carrot here, which allows Bane to kind of just deal with whatever follower Les wants to deal with.
Yeah, he has to clear this Carrot. He can't ignore the Carrot.
Yep, you've got to count. It's coming on turn 9. Yep, Gengar knows. Gengar knows Albert exists.
Albert's a card, people. Albert's a
Oh
card.
my goodness.
Oh, stop it, man. I'm starting to wonder if Lest is real now.
Right. I mean, we know he's a ninja, okay? Ninjas have their own tricks.
Yeah, but
Come on, everyone.
I love
Hurry up.
this. I like this line. He can use the Bane to take out the Bahamut. He won't actually, however, he won't be able to take out this Genesis Dragon, but
He's at 15, though, which is the perfect number to not die from double Genesis Dragon.
yes, it is. Yes, it is, and I'm pretty sure he's considered that.
Yeah. But we know that he doesn't necessarily need to trade into the Bahamut if he wants to push an extra damage this turn. Now, this would open him up heavily to a Grimnir top deck. or something of the sort. But he decides not to do that, and he actually decides, I don't want to take any damage, and you can't kill me with a single Bahamut swing. So I actually like that. I like trading with the Genesis Dragon there.
This does also do something else. But that doesn't do anything. If he had drawn Breath of the Salamander, he still would have had 2 followers on board. Right. And he could have used the Scyther to clear, which would have allowed him to do face damage. But yeah, I think that Gengar, I think this is it for him. I think this is over.
Job well done.
Yep. I mean, he can heal back up to 11, but we know that right now that's not enough. So with the Albert in hand, that is exactly 11 damage, and Lest is going to take this and walk over Gengar 2-0 with Sword against Dragon.
Wow. Yeah, that is not something you see often. Sword generally has such a hard time, as the game gets later and this and another. Lest is
a testament to your strength.
Just drawing those cards, man. You don't want to. You definitely don't go out in a tournament to Albert.
Less 2 zeros against Gengar. And I actually really like how that Swordcraft deck was set up. We hadn't even started seeing the Tsubakis. We saw the first one on the last card draw on his Rabbit Ear. Right. But he played a Swordcraft deck that was able to get through the early game without needing to really contest board, which is one of the big issues with Swordcraft, right? Mass clearing board. There were a lot of big targets, and this was specifically a lineup that Les submitted probably against Gengar, to make sure that, hey, if you're going to be running Dragoncraft, I'm going to have those options for hard remove, whether that be Maisie, or Tsubaki, or Counselor Card Knights, or anything like that. And I think it worked out really well for him. I think this was a very well-intentionally built deck, because it's definitely not your standard neutral lineup, right, for Swordcraft. Right. So Les will be able to eliminate Gengar, putting Gengar at 3rd place in the North American Shadowverse Season 2 Shadowverse Open, as I completely make up the name here of our tournament. But Gengar came so far. Obviously, in the first season, I think he didn't have quite as good of a run, but in the second season, making it all the way to the end. 3rd place is going to be his final finish, so a round of applause to Gengar. Thank you very much for competing.
Great job, Gengar.
Congratulations on your 3rd place finish. But this means that the stage is set now. And there was a feeling that this would be the eventuality of the Shadowverse Open in North America. But how fitting is it? The 2 champions of Season 1. One is the Season 1 Grand Champion, right? And the other is a Season 1 MVP. And the distinction there is Jay-Z won 1st place and was a champion of Tempest of the Gods for the Shadowverse Open, whereas Les was the highest points earner, won the most tournaments back-to-back in kind of the open season, and was very high placing in a lot of the tournaments as well. And so he was kind of one of the most prolific tournament competitors. And now they're here playing in the grand finals, Jay-Z from the winner's side, Les from the loser's side. And I think our bracket would be able to show us exactly what the lineup and the situation is for these players. But I think it's very interesting to consider here. Les was the only player that made a change to his deck, right? And he swapped out his Swordcraft deck with Forest Roach. And so again, the 2-time, is it gonna be Roach twice today? That what takes
I hope so.
It doesn't matter anymore.
Throw it in the garbage. Throw the curse in the garbage. Make sure it never comes back.
It was all a lie. We're gonna go back through the VODs and delete all the segments where Io Senpai was talking about the curse. There will be no record of the curse ever existing.
You guys were talking about it when I wasn't even here.
Yes, we were. we helped you push your agenda, Io Senpai, of how much you really enjoy the craft and how much Forest Craft does for the world and how much good it is. But speaking very honestly, I mean, it's become kind of a big theme on the show, right, where we talk about Forest Craft very commonly. But there's a reason, right? Forest Craft struggling a little bit in terms of usage rate, at least within the context of competitive, right? But now we actually see that with the final changes here, the meta is shifting almost week to week. Right after the changes happened, we saw a lot of aggressive lineups. We saw a lot of those neutral aggro decks come up, and Neutral Haven was kind of the strongest of all of them. And then slowly people started playing more and more control, until now people aren't even running Neutral Haven. I don't think there's a single Neutral Haven submission here. And
that's a big story for us. Like, we've seen Neutral Haven all last week. We saw it in Rage even in almost every single lineup. There's not a single Haven deck present in EU or NA. It's just completely dropped off the map for this tournament.
Yeah.
So
and it's been incredibly divisive. Week to week, tournament to tournament. No Dragon, no Shadow, no Haven. Forest wins. Swordcraft is not playing Froggy, right? Phantom Cat comes back. This sounds like I'm just writing clickbait YouTube titles right now.
Right.
But it's not. This is actually what it's like. And these top three players are so into their preparation and trying to figure out what the best deck to use against their opponent is that they are really being very creative with their deck lineups. But let's talk about it. Jay-Z gonna bring Neutral Sword again, D-Shift Rune, and Control Blood. Now, I think Jay-Z has a very good mastery of Control Blood. He demonstrated that last week, and I think he's very comfortable with that. But let's talk about Neutral Sword and D-Shift. Jay-Z does not strike me as a combo player, but it seems like combo is the ticket to win today. What do you think about Jay-Z's lineups here, Aya?
Well, with him bringing D-Shift, it's kind of like, if you remember from last week, it was Jay-Z versus Les that was playing that really grindy Control Blood matchup. And while I want to just go out on a limb and say that was like one of the best matches I ever saw. But with him bringing D-Shift, it was like he was trying to like, okay, you know what? Les brought this last week. Maybe he'll bring it again this week, and my D-Shift will be prepared for that. You know? And I think that Jay-Z's lineup, again, this is, I feel like a comfort thing. He's just, you know what? I'm in the finals. I got 2 chances. I'm comfortable. You know, let me get out my lounge jacket. I'm going to chill and let them play my game. He's got to, and Les got to win twice. So
Les does have to win twice, and it's interesting you brought that up because even in season 1 of the playoffs, Jay-Z versus Les, I would almost venture to say this is the craziest rivalry that exists in the Shadowverse Open because they have the most insane games where Les and Jay-Z are just rolling options. I mean, last week we saw that last card come, which was a revelation that gave Jay-Z the win. Multiple times where Les was just like, now I have a Grimner and I'm going to win, you know? There were so many crazy things that happened in this match, but as we're heading into this game here, the first game of the Grand Finals where Les does have to win 2 series to become the champion, and Jay-Z, sitting in a comfortable spot on winner's side, just has to win this first series to become the North American champion for both Tempest of the Gods and Wonderland Dreams. As we're getting in here, talk to me a little bit in more detail, Exodia, about Lest's lists and how they're going to line up against Jay-Z here.
Absolutely. So Lest in this matchup is actually, like you said, bringing Forest, which I think is great. Again, we know that he's going to be fighting against D-Shift and Control Blood, which Forest is great against. He's got the same blood and the same rune decks he's bringing. I feel like the rune deck might be a little disadvantaged here, like this late game rune deck that he's trying to bring, but we'll definitely see. But like Aya said, this is a very big, and Jay-Z, there you go. Good luck, have fun from Jay-Z. This is a big comfort pick from Jay-Z. I think he's playing the 3 decks he's most comfortable with. We know that his skill is there, so maybe even if his matchups aren't at their best, the comfort there, the skill there, I think Jay-Z still has a slight edge here, but Lest, as we know, is no slouch. So, Aya, what do you think about this matchup? Do you think Lest has what it takes? Do you think he's got the right decks? How you feeling?
Well, I think with Lest bringing this really heavy late game neutral list, it's going to depend on how well he does in the early game. We see that he has 2, 3, 4 in hand, so he will be able to do that, but we do see that the Kaleidoscopic Glow is in Jay-Z's hand, so he'll be able to bounce that back. But again, if Les can put enough beef on the board throughout the course of the game, it could make things more difficult for Jay-Z to be able to match. So, and if Jay-Z never actually draws into his D-shifts, because right now he doesn't have it in his hand, if he never draws into them or he doesn't draw into all the things that he needs, he could have a very difficult time winning his match.
Yep. There could be a point in time where, like, maybe a tempo turn of, like, a Flame Destroyer plus a Fiery Embrace plus a Chimera can all come down on the same turn and put Lest at a disadvantage after, like, Evo points are gone. But other than that, like you said, without D-Shift, it's really gonna... Oh, never mind.
Oh, never mind.
D-Shift players are drawing their D-Shifts today. All right, so no big deal there. So Jay-Z right on time with his D-Shift there. Perfect.
So he drew his D-Shift. He not only drew into that, but he drew into a Trail of Light and into a Sorcery Cache. So he's going to be able to spell boot a significant amount in the coming turns.
Now, he doesn't quite have a lethal setup, but as we know, we talked about this, Aya. Last week, we were kind of like, you know, what is Chimera doing in the deck? We don't really understand it. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We saw that can be another lethal setup with a Flame Destroyer with D-Shifts and stuff. So it is just another potent threat that you can play that can deal some extra damage to make sure that D-Shift can go the entire way when it combos instead of just almost all the way.
Well, Chimera does kind of something that Flame Destroyer doesn't do. Chimera can remove, say, a pesky ward if it's in play, like in way. It can, and Flame Destroyer doesn't do that without you having to burn an Evo. And you can play, and Chimera is more flexible than Flame Destroyer. You really want to play a Chimera a lot earlier than you want to play a Flame Destroyer. A Flame Destroyer you want to save to when you win. With Chimera, you can be like, all right, you know what? I need to stabilize this game, so I'm going to jam my Chimera in the mid game so that I can do that. And it's a 4/4, so it's not like it's a slouch to get over, and you don't necessarily want to ignore it either because it just makes it easier for your opponent to assemble their combo against you.
Right. And I find it to be really interesting because it's kind of like Hector. It's kind of like neutral runes Hector. Like, you can play it not necessarily always on 5, but pretty close most of the time. And it does the same thing except an extra point of damage, which is very, very relevant a lot of the time.
Definitely. So he will be able to clear Feria, but Lest is going to be able to push a very large amount of damage this turn.
On the warfield.
He's going to be able to protect his board and pump. I like this.
Yeah.
I like this.
This is great. This is excellent. So he's going to be able to hit for 7 damage to the face. And as we know, D-Shift doesn't have any healing, so he's not wiping that damage away or nothing.
Right. Now, Kaleidoscopic Glow, again, we've talked about this plenty of times. Evolving a 2-drop against Rune is never what you really want to be doing because of Glow, but bouncing a Fairy is not really what you want to be doing as D-Shift either, especially if you leave neutral followers in play, because it can just come back out and do the same thing it did last turn. So...
Well, we do... Well, let's see. Jay-Z does actually have the ability to play both Fiery Embrace and Chimera this turn. He could play Angelic Snipe, hit face, play Fire Embrace on the ward, then play Chimera on the Goblin Mage. So he does have the ability to do all of those things this turn.
And he might have to just pull the trigger. He's at 8. I don't know if he can really afford not to clear board pretty much for the rest of the game, especially knowing his opponent is playing things like Illusionist, Gilgamesh, Zeus. You know, these things that can just burst out of nowhere, which is crazy. The Illusionist in this deck as like a win condition is just awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I was not expecting Lex to be to do that. I was not expecting that.
10 damage Zeus? Oh.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Unbelievable.
When do you ever see 2 Zeus on board?
Right.
Unless someone's playing Jinker. When do you ever see that? It's crazy.
Okay, so I think he is going with the option. Yep, like you said, clear up board and playing the Flame Destroyer.
Oh,
I like
don't
it.
know about this.
Oh my goodness. He's going in.
Well, this is incredibly heads up. I don't know. Well, actually, I guess that line is going to work out.
Yeah, this is 2 turns before an Odin. There's not really a follower that can challenge this. Like, maybe a perfect Felice could have dealt with this Flame Destroyer, but as we see, there's no Felice in hand. Right. So
well,
I like this
he does
play.
have a way. He does have a way of being able to deal with it. He could play Illusionist to get the Hector back from before, and then he will be able to. He could clear it that way.
Right. This uses an Evo and is entire turn though, which is exactly what D-Shift wants your opponent to be doing. However, if this gets dealt with, does Jay-Z really have the gas to come back and win the game?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I think, by making this play, he kind of is banking that Lest can't deal with it. But I don't know if it was right. This seems really risky.
It's definitely not a play you would see from a D-Shift player every single game. So Jay-Z definitely had a specific line he wanted to play with this play. Basically saying, I don't think you have any possible way to deal with this, and it's just going to win the game, essentially by itself, because I can Fiery Embrace another big follower after you Evo to kill my Chimera, and then I can just start drawing some more cards. But, like you said, that Illusionist can deal with it.
On the warfield, a shining helmet.
I kind of like this. I like this play, and I like it for a specific reason. If Lest draws a Sahak Bell, you just win.
That's true.
You know,
He's going
draws
for the
Sahai
Sahagwell
wins.
draw. Yeah.
Yeah, he just wins because Zeus is in hand, and then he's putting Jay-Z at 5. So, yeah, I do like this line of play.
It's
But
very interesting.
it does put him in a position where he's kind of doing what Jay-Z did. Jay-Z made a very hard read. You can't deal with it.
Hmm.
Or even more so, you're not going to want to deal with this.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah.
The line from Lest here is very gambly, because essentially he's giving Jay-Z the option now to actually win with followers and not the D-shift combo. So Jay-Z has an interesting choice here. Obviously, he can just clear and go face. I was going to say, and he could put up the ward to prevent that lethal, but again, if he draws Sahagwell, the Sahagwell can be evolved. So
Yeah.
this is the draw.
It won't be long now.
Like, this is where Lest's play becomes very questionable.
No.
Right.
Like, was it really right to
We'll
do
see
this?
right
Was
now with the draw. It could be.
Yeah. If he draws
be
a
that-
Sahagwell. Okay, that's not a Sahagwell.
That was close. That was
that was
super close. Is that... Wait a minute. Is that enough? If he
Wait,
can...
no,
No, because
that's-
no, that can't be pumped by Farrier. For some reason, I was thinking Felice could be pumped by Farrier, but no, that's not
No,
a
it can't.
possibility, so...
But even if, well, Felice wouldn't be able to Evo itself, remember? So,
Right. He
wouldn't be able
But
to do
it
that
comes
anyway.
down, and then... Oh, that's right. You can't Evo both anyway, so never mind.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just going
that's what I'm
crazy
saying.
La La Land with possible plays, and that's not even possible, so... But yeah. So Les took a really big gamble, and it didn't pay off here. Maybe he just thought that, you know what, maybe that play was just so good, I don't really have another response other than to try to get lucky. And maybe he didn't even see the Illusionist line. We don't know.
It's possible he didn't see the Illusionist line. I think if it were me, I think I would have had to have taken out that Flame Destroyer. You know, because we could see, okay, Jay-Z is playing his cards out with a low amount. And if I was able to make sure that his board was clean and that, you know, make sure his board was clean, his D shift would have meant nothing.
That's my only thought when I play against D-Shift, because I've definitely played a number of games where I myself as a D-Shift player or my opponent just kind of unloads threats on a single tempo turn, like I even said at the beginning of the game, where you just play all 3 of these cards on the same turn for a big shift. But once you do that, if those threats get dealt with, you're kind of out of steam for a long time. Because A, you have to draw threats, B, you have to spell boost them again, so it just takes so much longer to rebuild back up. And yeah, Les went for the gamble, didn't pay off that time.
You know, I just kind of want to touch on that play just one more, the Flame Destroyer Evo play. I feel like that play was geared specifically towards Lest as a player.
Right, that could have been. Maybe
That's what I
Jay-Z is
feel.
not just very skillful in the decks that he's playing, but understands his opponents and what they're going to do against him.
Right. That's what I
Some-
think. What was the case?
I like
the
it.
case was.
I like it. So we've talked about this before. Control Blood, not the best matchup. We actually, in the EU side, saw Patina just concede this matchup. Jay-Z, not so much. Jay-Z's like, I'm going to play this matchup. I'm not giving up any free wins here.
Well, there is another reason that, you know, he gave up the matchup because it was the last in the set that he had already lost 2 games. Jay-Z won his first game, so he has a little bit of breathing room.
That's true. That is true. So, yeah, basically what we're seeing is most of the cards that you're going to see Jay-Z have don't really do a lot to stop what Forest is trying to do. And this isn't some weird neutral Forest list. This is even more combo-oriented and straightforward than we actually saw on the EU side. This doesn't have any Elf Twins assaults or anything like that. This is just straight old school combo Roach, Selwyn's Command, Ancient Elves, right down to a T. This is like basically a season or 2 seasons ago, Forest, where it just didn't have anything outside the box. It was just trying to kill you with combo. That's it.
Okay, he's just playing that. But now, one of the things I want to point out is that the matchup with Control Blood for Roach has changed a little bit. And the reason it has changed is because of Mask of Black Death.
Yep.
Okay? Mask of
That is
Black
true.
Death very heavily affects Roach Mat. So if you're sitting there and you're because with Roach, you need to think a couple of turns ahead. Okay, I can kill on this turn with this amount of play points, etc., etc. Mask of Black Death can be like, okay, I'm being played. And
Yep, and it's kind of
all
like a
that
pseudo ward that prevents possibly even more damage because it can't be killed with like a Dance of Death or, you know, Sylvan Justice plus other cards, things like that.
Right.
Now, I question less not playing Selwyn's command on 3 instead of the Ancient Elf. It would have dealt, basically, he would have gotten in a few more points of damage this game. So we'll see if that actually turns out to matter.
Well, given his hand right now, his hand's not particularly stellar. And by that I mean Les's hand. It's not particularly stellar, but neither is Jay-Z's. Jay-Z's hand, it's very reactive. He does have Revelation in the event that Les just fill the board again or put more things on board.
You might just have to single rev this.
Yeah. I don't think that you can just leave the Fina there. Again, we know that he's not going to care about wow, another rev. Okay. But we know that Les is going to be like, all right, if you leave this in play, you're taking damage and you're just making my Roach combo easier. So blowing a single Revelation on that was a really good line.
Especially drawing the second rev. Like, that was probably the card that he wanted to see, honestly, if he had to use a rev, is to find a backup just in case the board did get flooded again.
So he played 2 Revelations. He drew into his third one. So... and then not only that, if he does play Rev next turn, the following turn, he has access to Emeralda, which can then take out something else.
Right. And I think Les is getting close. So he just drew another Goblin Mage, which I think is the only card he's going to play this turn to find a second Roach, because we know he has the 0-cost Goblin Mage to find the first one. And then, honestly, he just needs to draw Nature's Guidance, and he's going to win this game in a short order here.
I don't believe that Prince of Darkness is going to matter.
No. If this game goes down to a Prince of Darkness finish, color me surprised. Okay, because
I'll be very surprised.
Yeah. Same thing with Bahamut and all that stuff.
I don't see him playing Revelation on the Goblin. I don't see it.
No. He might play the Mask here, but he might also think that Les doesn't have combo yet, which technically he could assemble if he top decks a Nature's Guidance. So it is a possibility. I don't think it's lethal until turn 8 because he only has 1 0-cost, and the Angelic Snipe can't necessarily... can't necessarily be played.
Well, Les can play EPM next turn, Evo get 2 0-costs,
right.
So he'll have 3 0-costs in hand, and he'll have access to 2 Roaches. So...
Either way, it's turn 8 is what I mean.
Yeah. And I don't think you want to play Mask here, though.
Yeah, you might not want to play Mask here. You really don't want to play Rev here either. But again, I think you have to do something. You can't take the free chip damage. That's just basically calling for suicide here. However, Mask of Black Death is... Yeah. I was going to say, Mask of Black Death is actually super interesting against Forest because if you do clear off their chip damage, generally, as we've seen in the past, Forest just doesn't do anything. You know what I mean? It just kind of sits there until it assembles combo. And Mask of Black Death is just free to sit there turn after turn to count down for, like, essentially 5 turns against Forest, just saying, hey, do something.
Right. Which will also give Jay-Z the ability to start putting some type of pressure on Les. But, as we can see right now, this is basically Jay-Z having 21 health.
Right.
But actually, not even necessarily just 21 health, it's gonna block everything, even if it does use up health. So he's gonna have to play very specially around this Mask of Black Death.
Yep, and I love the Evo here.
Such a tedious game.
No reason not to. He's sitting on 3 of them, and I mean, we see the Will of the Forest, but well, there's an Nature's Guidance.
There's the Guidance. I don't think he can push through the Mask. Yeah, I think you Will of the Forest to clear out the threat. And now, I think you have to try to do something about this Mask. I feel like you have to play, like, you can clear with the Will of the Forest, and you have to play at least a Fairy. Because you don't need all of the 0-cost. You can play at least a Fairy to maybe chip at it one more time. Maybe Jay-Z won't clear out the Fairy by itself. Just to kind of give you a sped-up turn, essentially, with that Mask of Black Death.
Right. I think Les is doing the math.
honestly speaking, we've been talking a lot about the back and forth of what's going on. Oh, he might just have it here. Maybe he did the math and he knows he can fight through it. But I was going to say, even if this game went into the late game, realistically, Control Blood just has to sit there. It's not going to be able to kill Force in any relevant time frame. And then Bless can just combo whenever. So it's not like he was in a bad spot regardless.
Oh, well, he did have it.
Let's count it.
That's it.
Yep,
That's
that's
15
perfect.
damage. He had it
Perfect
exactly.
Roach math flex.
Good job, man.
I lost. You're tough.
Jay-Z did the shrug. He's like, oh.
Yep, they got it. Yep, this is the matchup we expected to go in less favor. So evening up the score here, 1-1. No easy breaks for either player here.
Nope. I find it very interesting. The one person who brings that brings Forest wins with it.
Not
And
only
not
that,
only
but he only brought it for the finals.
Yeah, he only brought it for Jay-Z. I
That's
love
right.
that. I love that. So it's kind of like even more counterplay. You know, the first
It's a
game
good
we
tech
saw that-
choice.
Yeah.
We've
It
seen
is.
Jay-Z likes to play slower decks in these last couple of tournaments, so definitely a heads-up deck choice.
The more counterplay between the two of them. These guys know each other incredibly well. They've
Yep.
played plenty of games against each other in
You must
tournament.
die.
So
I guess you're looking for
I
a
mean,
fight.
now we do know Lest has to win twice, though.
Yep.
So if he wins this set, he still has to win another one.
So let's get through another one, and I think that's going to be the hard one. So as you said earlier with the D-Shift game, Jay-Z kind of makes plays expecting what Lest is going to do on the follow-up, and it actually won him a game. And that's like way into the mind of your opponent. If that's the case, after a fresh set of games against this opponent, if you think that way, you're even going to be better prepared for the next matchup coming on. So I think if Lest wins this, Jay-Z is even going to be hunkering down more and maybe even has a bigger advantage.
Well, this is okay. This is a thing. So Cinderella is actually going to be really strong in this matchup.
Very strong.
Cinderella is one of those cards that is a very big difference maker between Neutral Rune and Neutral Sword, because Neutral Rune doesn't have easy ways, especially on the play, to be able to deal with Cinderellas on curve.
These are my best
So
Especially when they're not playing any spells. This is a full follower deck from Lest.
yeah,
And of
So
course, we
he's-
know Cinderella is the biggest 3-drop, and that means that no follower is going to be able to match up to it accurately.
right. Okay, so we see that Lest again has that really, really, really heavy top end with the two Zeuses in hand. We know from like the previous game, I know that he has 3 Zeus in his deck. So yeah, 3 Zeus, I believe 2 Gilgamesh. He's tons and tons of Storm, but
Yep.
he's got to get.
He does have a
Gotta
gate
get
there, and this is the first roadblock.
And he's not going to be able to get rid of the Cinderella right now. There's no way.
Now,
He has no
speaking
card-
of the Cinderella, there's not really a good follow-up play for Jay-Z after the Cinderella. He can't really play Unica with anything, if that's the play. If he plays his other Cinderella, he can essentially just heal trade, essentially put back together a full health Cinderella in play if he wants to do that line. But
Right.
not a great turn 4 play.
On stage.
Nope.
Works up to the bone.
But we do see both players don't have their Alice. So we won't be seeing turn 4 Alice from
Don't say
either
that
one of
yet.
them.
We don't know yet.
Match will be tastier.
Well,
There is a top
I'm
deck
not
to happen.
All right.
Uh,
I want to point out that I'm not entirely in favor of what Les just did. He traded to do 2 damage to the Cinderella.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure I would have done that. I think I would have just gone face because I can't kill it anyway, so why minus your own board?
Plus, you could just
I don't
Evo the
know.
Cinderella and push face here to force an Evo anyway. So, I mean,
So
but
this doesn't
that would
actually
leave the Actress Feria, so...
Yeah, I guess.
I
but-
don't think it matters pushing the 2 there. Maybe the consideration, and this is the only thing I can think of, is that Lyriel was opening up as a possibility for Jay-Z this turn, and he didn't want it to just die, essentially.
I actually, I guess that's fair.
Yeah, that's probably the only point that I can think of. And it makes sense. This is turn 4. Like, we could expect easily like a Unica plus Lyrio clear board, and then you didn't get any value out of that 2-1. So I think that's what he was thinking.
Well, this also does prevent Jay-Z from freely trading with the Cinderella, should he have tried to do so. But I don't know if he would have traded. And I don't think that I would trade with the Cinderella in this case either. And he is. Wow. Wow.
Being the aggressive player and being reactionary here might, in the long run, hurt Jay-Z because Lest is favored the longer the game goes.
Yeah. So I was dead wrong, but I'm not entirely sure if I agree with this. I don't know. I'm not agreeing with a lot of plays right now.
It's okay. They're like we've talked about this before. We know these players are on their own levels, right? They're very competitive players. They know what they're doing. It might not make sense to us immediately, but in the grand scheme of things, they might have their own game plan. Whether they're right or wrong, who's to say immediately? But definitely different choices. And as we can see, all these extra room cards in the deck of Lest kind of hurting his Felices. We haven't seen his Felices be these game-breaking things that we normally see Felices being.
Exactly. He will be able to get rid of the Cinderella, but Jay-Z's turn 5 is really just either Unica into the Rabbit Ear Attendant or play Albert. I mean, you don't want to burn a Maisie on that.
Yeah, and I don't think you want to use your Albert here either.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, all right. Now with the second Albert in hand.
When in doubt, draw another Albert. Like, always draw Albert.
Absolutely right. Now, saying that, Albert wouldn't have been a terrible play that turn because, again, there would have been a lot of resources out of Lest, an Evo point, another follower, just to deal with the Albert. But decided he wanted the card draw first, which makes sense.
Well, we're seeing right now that, yet again, another reason that Lest's deck is kind of hurting him right now, that Hector does not have 3 neutrals to be able to use his ability.
Right. The Illusionist specifically being the card that's blocked that a couple times, Grimoire being the other card. But yeah, just his neutral part of his deck is not operating the way he wants it to right now. That being said, Felice is still a great play here.
Yeah, I was about to say that. He can still play Felice. He doesn't even necessarily have to Evo it right now. And I wouldn't. Like, let's say I didn't know I didn't have blind information. I still wouldn't Evo it.
Gotta save it. Your opponent has 2 left.
Yeah. There's no point.
It won't be long now.
Oh wow.
He feels the need that he has to Evo.
Oh.
Wow.
Being aggressive. Okay. Council of Card Knight's an insane draw.
That was... I don't think he could have drawn better.
No, that was quite literally the best card he could have drawn. This will easily clear out the Felice and allow him to just keep pushing face damage.
Yeah, you couldn't have drawn better. I think less top deck powers are kind of beginning to work against him.
Right. Right, and then we're just seeing basically just people throwing punches at each other. Less than Jay-Z, just like literally taking off the gloves, throwing punches. They're like, I'm gonna clear your board, you clear my board, I clear your board. Like, this is a very specific game that's being sculpted. I don't think it's a natural game that you would normally see on ladder because of the 2 players knowing what they know about each other. Who's on the winning end of this, I'm not sure yet.
Well, it does allow him to turn on his Hector.
Yes.
Now, but Jay-Z is in a very good position right now to be able to just pressure with the Albert. He can play the Albert now. Not now, it's not his turn, but during his next turn, and just kind of start going. The Hector can take out the Bane. I mean, or he could even just opt to play Maisie, clear board, go face, and then save the Alberts for later. Like,
that's what I was thinking. I was thinking you could even do both. Yeah, Maisie and Albert next turn after the Hector, because I think Lest is going to play Hector this turn because he needs to clear out that Bane. And then the follow-up's just going to be Maisie, Albert, face, clear ward with the evolved Maisie. And the follow-up's not going to be great from Lest. His only follow-up really is either a Saha Quill into a Zeus or a Magic Illusionist. You know what I mean? He doesn't have great options at this point.
So he's leaving the Bane in play.
Come on, everyone.
And this prompts Jay-Z to play completely differently. He's like, oh, you're going to keep my Bane? All right. He might even keep it again. He might just Evo the Rabbit Ear Attendant or another play here just to go through. But I think he wants to save the Evo point, especially with Maisie's in hand and Albert's. He just has too many valuable cards to Evo here.
If I were him, I would consider trading with the Bane and just going face. No point to Evo. You could play the other Rabbit Ear Attendant if you wanted, because why not? Or... Yeah, that's the only line I think I would think about here. I think trading, saving the Evo point for the Albert or the Maisie should you need it, I think those are the lines.
Yep, I like that. And yeah, I mean, of course, got to play that Rabbit Ear Attendant first.
Right. See what
if
you
you
want
to get full value.
There are no wolves out
Oh.
Oh. Ooh.
Okay, so maybe doing our first option, which was...
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of playing the Albert here for full damage, deciding to go with the Rabbit Ear for more card draw, which is not a bad step. Saving Alberts for turn 9 is never bad.
No, it's not. And we see that he has another Council of Card Knights, so he will be able to Council of Card Knights into a Rabbit Ear Attendant next turn. On top of that, holding on to 2 Alberts in hand. Like, Les is in some trouble here. He doesn't actually have answers to this board.
Until turn 10, he's kind of just dead in the water. Now, if he could get to those Zeuses can block Alberts pretty well. But he's got to get there.
Yeah, but that's not doing it.
On the warfield, a shining helmet.
That will help, but we can see 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 11 damage possible from Jay-Z at the moment. Not quite lethal.
No. So it's 3, 5. Yeah. So
I still think you throw out an Albert here. You get him to 1.
I don't see why you don't. I don't see why you don't. It's a turn before it's a turn before turn 10. Actually, 2 turns before. So yeah, I think Albert is a completely fine play. And again, we know that Les' board outside of Bahamut does not have board clear.
Right.
And he has no way of being able to win off of the back of this next turn. It's not.
Honestly speaking, Jay-Z doesn't even need to play the Albert this turn. I just think there's no reason not to.
Right.
If anything, even to clear something, in case you think your opponent might be able to set up some kind of a lethal next turn, which we know is not possible. And realistically, I don't think it's possible for 14, at least not until the, the Crazy Illusionist turns on turn 10, like we saw before.
Right.
But
I don't think we're going to be seeing that this game. So
no, definitely not.
I don't really know what he's going to be able to do here. Lester's in a very bad spot. No way of board clearing. I mean, Israfil would have been a great draw, but I don't know. Like, there's not really much he can do. Yeah.
Okay. So basically doing like a double-edged blade here, being defensive, like I said, while also pushing enough damage to make an enhanced Albert lethal next turn. I think he's in a great spot. I think this is lights out for Les this game. I don't think there's anything he can do this turn to stop it.
Nope. Despite having gone first and whatnot, he just wasn't able to generate enough pressure on board.
Yep.
It's like he's just digging for nothing. He's just playing cards.
So just to get at the point here, I really think that deck construction plays a really big role in less like how his deck has been playing out here. Of course, I mean that's usually how deck construction goes, but very specifically that he couldn't get value or enough value out of Felice or Hector early enough in the games to actually push ahead. It was kind of hindering him. So Jay-Z might be able to just take this out on the first playthrough here.
Yeah. He has his control blood left. So, because he lost with the control blood, so he has this left. So Lest has 2 chances to beat control blood.
See if he can do it. He's got to do it with Sword also, which is, again, we did see Sword push through before. Why do I keep saying Sword? Why do I keep saying Les has Sword? I don't know why I keep thinking he has Sword. For some reason.
Maybe you just like Sword.
Maybe I just like Sword. No, that's me. That's just me. I don't know. What I was gonna say, his blood deck, this crazy Frankenstein blood deck. I really don't know. This one's up for grabs. I don't know how this Vengeance Blood deck is going to play out. Honestly.
I don't either. I have no insight for you other than let's watch the game.
That's right. That's right. Which is what we like to do best. We like to watch games. We like to talk about games. Generally, Vengeance Blood has a really good matchup against Control Blood because it can really just keep you outside of Vengeance and then just push a ton of damage, you know, with Dark Generals and Blood Wolves, which his deck can do. It's just not specifically designed to go that route all the time. Like, he's got kind of more defensive option and more of like a control game counter with Caraboss. So realistically, it could be in the same spot, and he just has Carabosses thrown in there to help him even more against control. So probably still a good matchup.
I think this is a little different though than traditional Control Blood. Before, we weren't seeing Control Blood running Blood Moon, and Blood Moon really changes the scope of the match.
Yep.
Blood Moon gives you access to those Revelations, gives you access to the Righteous Devils. It gives you access to so many cards. Diabolic Drain gives you access to all these cards that really change the way that this matchup used to play out.
Not only that, but Mask of Black Death has been proving game after game that it is just a really good card.
Yeah. When the card first came out, I don't know if you remember this, but when the card first came out, we were all like, this card is busted, it's great, this, that,
Yeah,
blah,
it's
blah, blah.
too good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it didn't really
And
show
then-
up in the meta.
Right. And then all of a sudden it came back, and it coming back did so much for it. Like, now it's a staple in Control Blood.
Right.
I can't imagine not playing in Control Blood.
So, counter to what I said earlier, this is not looking like Frankenstein Blood at all. This is looking like straight up aggro Vengeance Blood, which is exactly what Les wants to be drawing in this matchup.
Should I suffocate you?
So, I like this Evo. It protects very well against the He will be able to take out one thing, and he'll have to run into the ward. Won't be able to take out the Urias, so he'll still have damage.
Thirst, quench them.
Yep, Urias kind of mitigating a little bit of the life gain here.
So instead of gaining 2, he actually only gains.
One bite's all I need.
Trades into the ward. Of course, we know that Les is probably just gonna ignore that Sabrewer.
Yep, that's what you do.
No reason
You
to
should
do that.
almost, and we might even get to see an early Caraboss this game. So this might just be unload then Caraboss, and then just kind of just continue with the beats and hope that the Caraboss pushes you over the edge with the card advantage.
Now, I don't see much reason. Okay, if he wants to protect his board, he can do that. Play Spiderweb then. He could also just. Okay, he's gonna hold the Razor Claw. I was gonna say Razor Claw, but this is fine too.
Check this out.
And
I
he's
like
gonna,
it.
It's all face. All
Yep.
face. All the time.
Basically, the smallest follower, he's like, yeah, you can ram your Sabrewer into this, or you can Evo into it, but yeah, I'm just pushing.
Yep. Oh boy, that's not what Jay-Z wanted to see. You can see it on
Prince
his
of
face.
Darkness
He's got that.
it might be the only card in Jay-Z's deck where he was just like, I thought I was going to play against a lot more control, and it just didn't happen, so this Prince is kind of just meh.
Thirst, quench them.
Ends up being very subpar.
Yep.
So he actually only gains 1 again. That 1 king
One
is
bite's
very
all I
substantial in
need.
this matchup.
hmm
Very substantial.
Every
Especially
damage
since we
counts.
know- Every damage counts, especially since we know Lest is playing a more aggressive deck. I can't imagine Caraboss doesn't get played in. Well, actually, it's not
Caraboss could be a
entirely.
play here. He could
could
try to
play
empty
golf.
here. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He could just honestly go Baphomet, Blood Wolf, and Razor Claw this turn, and then set up for Caraboss next turn, kind of after getting rid of a lot of these cards just sitting in hand.
There was
I like
nothing to
getting
be
rid of this.
afraid of.
For one reason, if he chooses to put Jay-Z into Vengeance outside of the Blood Moon, because the Blood Moon's going away next
There
time,
was nothing
then
to be afraid of.
Emeralda would have actually killed him. So
Right.
I like him deciding to do that.
Right.
But he's keeping him directly out of Vengeance. He is going to open himself up to Blood Hungry Matriarch, though. So that is.
So this is going to get really tense here. With double Emeralda in hand, Jay-Z actually becomes the active aggressive Vengeance Blood player here.
Yeah. So now what Lest can't do, Lest cannot
Is play
Caraboss.
Caraboss. Right.
He can't play
He
it.
plays Caraboss, he's just going to lose to repeated Emeraldas.
Yeah. He cannot play Caraboss.
technically, he wouldn't necessarily lose next turn, but he could. But then again, he could always top deck like Vengeance Blood does into like double Dark General or something crazy to just maybe finish out the game. But we're definitely not seeing that line of play here, which is great. Very heads up from Les to know that he can't play the Caraboss here to stick him into Vengeance.
Okay, this one's
Yep.
all me.
And again, he's still sitting outside of. So Emeralda will actually only be able to take out one thing.
Ecstasy.
The one that he plays. If he.
Ooh,
that's a good.
that was
draw.
beautiful. This will
was
allow
great.
Jay-Z to actually play the Blood Moon before the
Yeah.
Emeraldas.
Yep. I love this, and that I don't think in that situation the only card he could have drawn out would have been better would have been Revelation.
Right. Yep,
But I like
Revelation
this.
would have been the best, but yep, this works.
Yeah. This gains some health. Again, Les has to be incredibly careful about putting Jay-Z into Vengeance. Oh wait, it doesn't matter because he's gonna play the Blood Moon, so it won't matter if he plays
Right.
him in Vengeance.
Right, not going to matter
So,
anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that is the best play here. I think the best line is Blood Moon, Diabolic Drain, and then just set up for Emeraldas to be this ever-present thing that makes less life really hard. Essentially. I didn't think this shift
So-
was going to happen, but this is really interesting to see the shift here.
Jay-Z's thinking really hard about it, making sure. I mean, he's one game away from just two-peating.
Right.
Like,
This is the most important game he's played yet.
yeah. And I don't know if he's gonna like. I don't see how he can lose.
I mean, he can definitely lose. There can be a spike of damage here, especially with this play not gaining life.
Wait. How much damage does he have? Let's.
So technically, he just said, if you have double Dark General, I lose with this line of play. We know that Les doesn't, but that was opening himself up to it.
Well, actually, Dark General into Double Razor would have also just won. So, which he doesn't have. Well, he has a Double
No
Razor.
Dark
but he doesn't
General.
have Dark General.
Yeah. This does set up lethal next turn for Jay-Z, though, possibly, if Vengeance is gotten into. Like, if Les keeps waiting, he might not have an opportunity to actually kill in the end because these Razor Claws might become unplayable. We'll see.
Quench them.
Well,
You're kidding.
okay. So, in effect, what Lest has done is nothing. What I was gonna say was he made it where Emeralda lethal doesn't kill him and he would still have followers on board, but
Right.
yeah,
For fun and games.
he's gonna be able to. Jay-Z's gonna be able to gain a lot of health.
Gain a lot of health, push 4 damage, and again, there's no Evo points left over for Les, so dealing with followers is not easy.
No, it's not.
And now we can't even play
can't.
the Razor Claw.
Nope, can't at all. And that's it.
That's game.
That's it.
Jay-Z!
That's
Jay-Z! Becoming the aggro Vengeance Blood player against aggro Vengeance Blood.
Yeah.
Outrageous.
Outrageous indeed.
And you can see Jay-Z already knows it after the Caraboss play. There's no like crazy shenanigans happening.
Nope. It's a wrap. Pack it in.
Les, 2-time champion, plays the Prince of Darkness to show us that we're wrong, that it's never going to come into play.
Well, it's not a good
Good
thing.
job.
Right.
I lost. You're
Showed up with the flare. How awesome. Jay-Z,
There it
2P.
is. Jay-Z with the tournament-winning play there. Emeralda coming in for the last shot, and he really turned the tables there on Les, was able to go on the aggressive front. And I really think that this Jay-Z has been, very consistent with the deck lineups that he's been playing, demonstrating expertise over whatever the kind of tournament meta threw at him, and was able to defeat Les here, even despite the fact that Les had such an aggressive lineup. And this is something interesting to consider. I feel like Control Blood has demonstrated again and again how effective it is at just stalling the game out. And I think it's a really interesting decision to try to run in aggressive, especially board-based follower aggression into Control Blood. So I think that matchup was really tough for Les to move through, and Jay-Z becomes the tournament champion for Wonderland Dreams for North America 2 times. Tempest of the Gods and Wonderland Dreams.
Mhm.
What an incredible performance. What
He's
did
the
you guys
player to
think? I
beat.
mean, you guys all said that Jay-Z would win, but what did you think of that match, Exo?
I thought he played very well. I don't see any lines of play that didn't make any sense. Maybe the Flame Destroyer play, but again, Aya pointed out, or Aya over here, Aya pointed out that it could have just been his way of playing against less specifically. So what we might have seen as a mistake could have been him just making a really straightforward play against an opponent he really knows. So realistically, I think that Jay-Z last week, this week, just proved to everybody that he deserves to be here. He deserves to be champion yet again. And again, I will say this out loud to everybody listening. Those of you who don't think that Shadowverse is a skill-based game, check out our winner, Season 1,
Right.
Season 2, same person, luck only? You tell me.
Nah.
Even just the top
Can't be.
3, right? We were talking about it,
Right.
how Lest is back even. Jay-Z has taken another tournament win, and Gengar has consistently shown that he can make it far in these tournament scenarios. But we are preparing for an interview, and we're going to get some thoughts on Jay-Z and how he's feeling after his second win of a season. Champion of Tempest of the Gods for North America, champion for Wonderland's Dreams in North America, and now there's just so much to talk about here, and I believe we have Jay-Z on the line. Jay-Z, are you there?
Hello.
Oh my god, that is just absolutely incredible. How are you feeling off your win against Lest?
I feel like a winner. I don't know. Those games went so well, except for the one Control Blood triple revelation draw, and I'm just happy that I didn't like Mega Brick 3 times in a row.
That
Like,
that's
3
definitely a
good
concern.
games. Yeah, we played 3 real games. And
Yeah.
I'm happy for that. Or 4.
4. That's yeah, because Les did end up taking 1 from you. But I'd like to ask you know, about that kind of thinking about breaking, and also just kind of worried that you would not draw into your options. What are some of the things that, because you're such a consistent player. In Season 1, you were making it super far into brackets quite commonly, and you also won a bunch of them, and then you won the playoffs, and now you're winning the playoffs here for Season 2. What do you do to mitigate against that? Because consistency, I think, is something very ethereal to a lot of players who are not in that competitive level. How do you mitigate against that?
My part of my playstyle is to make sure that built into every single one of my decks there is a way to win any matchup. For example, that's why Azazel is in my deck, even though I don't think he's a particularly good card. He gives you a chance to win against Aegis, D-Shift, all those like nonsense, like combo decks basically that can destroy you without like you being able to interact. Stuff like that. And another thing that I do a lot is I review my VODs. I have people who are always working with me to make sure that I am constantly, training as hard as I should be, making like the right plays every time.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, and I definitely noticed that. I think, obviously, it wasn't a match that happened today, but there was an insane Control Blood mirror that you had, and I think you made some incredible decisions there in a situation that I doubt a lot of players have played it. Was that something that you had practiced for? Was Control Blood mirrors something that you had done before, or was it just something you had a lot of experience with, so you kind of knew how to navigate that scenario?
I go into every single game asking myself, how do I win? So because Les had Spawn Bloods in his deck that I can't interact with as long as he has evolution points, and I don't have Bahamut, which, given the way the match played out, I would never have been able to Bahamut them because I didn't draw them for a long time. So I told myself, I'm going to play this matchup very, very aggressively, draw a lot of cards, not worry about decking out. Make sure that I force Les to spend every single evolution point so he can't uninteractively kill me with Spawn into Emeralda. And that's just the way, like, you can tell that like I had a different strategy for Gengar. I let him draw cards first, and then I basically just made him deck out. That's because of the difference of win condition. So like little things like that. Open deck list is the best thing ever for a player like me, because I really like having a strategy to come into the game. I really like knowing what my opponent's outs to win are, stuff like that. I think that's why I do so well here.
Yeah, that certainly helped you in this match in the grand finals here, and you were able to, on the winner's side, just cleanly sweep through everything. What are some of the things, I mean, obviously taking first place for the second time now has to be an incredibly exciting situation for you, but what's kind of looking forward, what's next for you? There's a World Grand Prix coming up, Season 3 coming up. How do you see yourself fitting into the competitive landscape here, and how are you feeling about Shadowverse in general?
The funny thing is, going into this set, I actually was not enjoying Shadowverse that much. I mean, I'm personally a huge hater of neutral decks.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people hate neutral decks, but I really hate them. Like to the point where I think both of my opponents built lineups that don't care about, like would not be happy to play against neutral decks. But what is there to look? I mean, like, what's weird is that, like, I know it's like a little late to be suddenly finding myself loving the game again, but I do, and like I realize that this meta is actually just so much fun. I get to play D-shift on the ladder, and it doesn't suck every time. Like, this game is so fun. I'm gonna keep playing. Like I'm gonna enjoy my like week off until the next expansion.
Sure.
But the moment the expansion hits, I'm gonna hit those packs and try to build all the silly memes and whatever, and find the best deck, and hopefully continue my successes in Season 3. And if I win Season 3, I get invited to Rage, right?
Well,
or not the Grand Prix.
Yes. So there's going to be there's a qualifying tournament, the Contenders Cup, that's going to be coming up in November, and there are going to be more details released about that. Winning that will actually get you in the World Grand Prix, and you're certainly well positioned to do so. And because you're in the top 6 of Season 2, you're going to be in Season 3, so you are eligible to participate in that tournament. So definitely look forward to that, and that's going to be in Starforge Legends, which is going to be a very different meta. Talking about that, you were talking about how you were excited about getting into Starforge Legends in the expansion, and obviously you're part of Mana Surge, which is kind of one of the bigger teams in the scene. Is there anybody in particular? I know you talked about preparation and kind of playing against people. Who are the key people of Mana Surge that have kind of helped you along get to where you are, or what do you think has been kind of your best way to kind of work with the community to make sure you're as good as you are?
I mean, everybody on Mana Surge has been incredibly helpful, even if they aren't completely aware of it. I'm not the most active person on our team chat, but what I do is I read everybody's deck list. I try everybody's things out. They don't even know, actually. I didn't tell them until recently.
Who is the one who still does not know? Is there one that you are really relying on who has no idea that you're so reliant on them? Who's been a key person for you?
Like the person who doesn't know? The person who knows the least how helpful he's been to me is Shugo. Because he always builds forest decks, and I love forest. Forest is my favorite class.
Yes! Did you hear that? Oh, Exo is sitting very quietly on the line, and I'm sure ISFI would appreciate that too.
Forest is by far my most practiced class and my favorite. And like, I realize I say this as a person who's brought Forest to NGE exactly once. Ever.
It's okay. I don't blame you.
It's bad. But.
That's great.
Shugo is the person who doesn't know. I obviously I shout out auto aim like pretty much anytime I win anything, because he's the one most responsible for me winning anything at all. He built all my deck lists for Season 1 basically.
Wow.
Yeah, and for Season 2 he built a significant chunk of my decks. Like the first week of NGE round robin, I just stole his deck list from a tournament from the day before, and he was like, "Wait, you just copied these card for card?" I was like, "Yeah, I trust you."
That's the way to do it.
I never played the decks before. It ended up costing me a match. I kind of misplayed, and it was pretty embarrassing. But the decks are great. And he is responsible for so much of my success. He tests with me. He tells me what I'm doing wrong. Like even the decks that he isn't building, I have him in call with me. I tell him, "Is this stupid?" And he'll tell me, "Yeah, you're stupid."
Hey, who's first place now? Who's laughing now?
I think he's a better player than me, honestly.
Like,
I think he's a better player. He works much harder than me. I wish I could spend all day on Shadowverse like he does.
Well, certainly, we'll see. I mean, Auto Aim has a chance in Season 3 to come back, and maybe it's going to be a rivalry between the two of you, the mentor and the student, perhaps. But as we're kind of, let's kind of, I'd love to talk to you all day because there's so many questions I have. You're obviously a very, very experienced player, and I would say the top in North America, even maybe the top in the world, just because of how much success you have under your belt. And
absolutely.
But yes, absolutely. Yeah, that describes me. But are there any last shoutouts that you want to give? The platform is yours as a champion of Wonderland Dreams here in North America. Who is it that you want to show some love to? Any shoutouts you have?
My team leader, I guess, Red, wanted a shout out for being useless. I don't know why he wants that. He's not useless at all. I think he's been very, very helpful. He gives me a pep talk before every single one of my matches because I am not the most mentally.
You need the meditation.
I don't have a healthy mentality towards myself. I get pretty negative, and Red is so helpful. Of course, to Auto Aim because he is just responsible for everything, every single success I've had on NGE. Shout out to Kuriketo SB for supporting me emotionally many times, getting me to practice even when I'm just feeling like I just don't want to play any more Shadowverse for the day. She's been fantastic.
Oh, well, there it is.
Yeah.
So many people there supporting you, and of course, I mean, that's all paid off, right? All the time that you've kind of put into learning the game and spending it, so now you're a two-time champion. Maybe it's going to be three-time. So, Jay-Z, I want to give you, and for everybody on the commentary desk, a shout-out as well, and a big heartfelt thank you for competing in Shadowverse Open and taking first place again, and I hope to see you soon. And just like Akamaru Red, I hope to see you in future events and be able to meet you face-to-face, and maybe in Japan if you make it to the World Grand Prix. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Thank you for casting. You're great.
Oh no! Oh my gosh, that's not okay. It's not about me. It's about you. So thanks so much. We're gonna move on with the broadcast. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Jay-Z, and I'm sure we'll get many more opportunities in the future. But let's take a look at the brackets and see how the tournament has concluded here. For all the players, Jay-Z first place, 3-1 against Les, did not even have to use his extra life 2 times back-to-back. Oh my god, that is actually insane to me. And North America has shown some players with such incredible consistency, whereas, some of them have fallen to the wayside, such as Noah, but Jay-Z is still holding strong onto his identity, and Les taking second place, had an incredibly strong showing, and that is still still very demonstrative of Les skill, right? He was able to go very far in the first playoffs, and I think he's improved, getting second in this playoffs, and who knows, in Season 3 he might have an even stronger performance.
Absolutely.
But how did you guys feel about that? I mean, Jay-Z, obviously, a player who I think has a lot of I think it's almost like he's fighting himself,
Right. That's what it sounded like from his interview. Like, I didn't actually know all that stuff, behind the scenes with him and that kind of thing, but it makes a lot of sense. And just the ability to push through all that, to be a repeated champion, to be able to just always be making good heads-up plays every single time you're in a match, regardless of your mental state. Maybe he has to hold it back while he's playing and that kind of stuff. But that just proves even more so that he has the skill and what it takes to be a champion. So good on Jay-Z.
So we have our 2 first place winners. Aya gives a thumbs up. And before we look to close out the show, ISM, how did you feel about the playoffs today? Akamaru Red, champion of EU, Jay-Z, champion of North America. How did you feel the competition was?
I thought the competition today was awesome. Very, very targeted play from EU, very consistent play from NA. I look forward to what Season 3 is going to bring because I imagine that a lot of these guys, not even just the guys who made it in the top 6, but the people from top 12, they're going to be coming back. They're going to want that.
They're out for blood.
I got to take these guys down, out for blood, man. I got to take them down. So I think that's going to happen. I think that today was a very good indicator that, as EXO said earlier, skill.
Yep.
Skill is what matters in the end, and we've seen a lot of Shadowverse and probably some of the most intense matches today as it was the finals. But as we're closing out the broadcast, I'd like to remind all of you, if you want to be a competitive Shadowverse player, as Akamaru Red would say, you know, preparation, passion, and putting the time in to make sure that you know what you're doing, you could be a competitive player as well. You have your opportunity to do so. October 1st is when you can start signing up for Season 3. There's going to be 3 qualifier weeks and 6 players, 2 from each of the qualifiers. The top 2 will be chosen to join the cast, join the top 6 to be the Season 3 lineup, and those 12 players will play in the Contenders Cup that will qualify them to go to the World Grand Prix. So keep your eyes open. If that's interesting to you, make sure you participate. And stay tuned. At Shadowverse Games is going to be the Twitter that's going to announce all those details, and you can find more information on our website, shadowverse.nge.io. And lots of exciting Shadowverse stuff coming along. The World Grand Prix is going to be huge. We got to see a lot of really cool competitive action in the Rage LAN Tournament Finals this last weekend, and we're going to be able to join part of that action. So I really hope to see all these players like Akamaru Red and Jay-Z and all of them going there. But with that, make sure you keep your eyes on TwitchCon because we are going to be there. And thank you so much for watching, and for all the players for competing, and for you guys for commentating all the matches in Season 2. I just sat here and did a whole bunch of nothing and asked a bunch of dumb questions, so I really appreciate you guys bearing with me. But that's going to be a wrap for Wonderland Dreams in the Shadowverse Open. The next time we are here at the Shadowverse Open, it's going to be Starforged Legends. So I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and we'll see you next time.